The world has been destroyed once again. Cities are ablaze. Right at the start, the main character encountered a wild boss. But luckily, the boss is very cute, and she also has a whip in her hand. Despite this, the main character believes he is doomed. He thought that was the end of the story. Time for the credits. Indeed, the credits rolled, and that could have been the end of it. However, to be honest, that wasn't the moment when everything went awry. A young man named Xiaye, 21 years old, a student. At some point, a system information window appeared before the young man. This year, a game called Will of the Earth merged with the Earth. Monsters and game characters from various factions arrived simultaneously, and the world was in danger. Fortunately, everyone on Earth became a player. A real confrontation ensued. Everyone started as a beginner and received abilities to fight monsters. This applied to all players except Xiaye. The young man was extremely excited. An ordinary college student found himself facing an extraordinary, pivotal moment in his life. Due to an error during character creation, the system froze and crashed. Xiaye looked around in surprise. Where had everything gone? At some point, the protagonist realized he couldn't equip items. Xiaye realized he couldn't even gain experience or level up. The protagonist couldn't view his stats, and that terrified him. The young man shouted that a normal person wouldn't be able to survive in such a dangerous world. Xiaye fell into despair. Xiaye realized he might die while still a virgin. That definitely wasn't funny. However, this guy was an optimist and decided there was nothing he could do about it now. He would have to find a safe hiding place and figure out how to survive. Fortunately, the young man's inventory was still working. He still had a few beginner potions left. Xiaye decided he needed to get to a safe zone. To do that, it would be a good idea to team up with other players. An anomalous atmospheric phenomenon appeared in the sky above the young man's head, accompanied by a strange noise. Xiaye looked back and stared at it in surprise. What could this mean? Something resembling a meteorite crashed into the city at an incredibly high speed. A powerful explosion occurred. The young man watching the phenomenon from the sidelines had said, "It has arrived after all. This is the apocalypse." Hiding behind a rock, Xiaye saw the monster appear. Could it be that it had fallen to the ground? Could it be the wild boss? The boss turned out to be a demoness. She surmised that this was indeed the very place. This was where the Lord of Prophetic Dreams had arrived. It was the leader of the Heavenly Kings, Beliar, an S-class demon. Xiaye, peeking out from behind the rock, couldn't understand how it could have happened that an S-class monster had appeared before him. Beliar looked around but saw no one nearby. The girl said that while she might not have a good sense of direction, she was certain it had definitely been here. In the monster's hands was an image of the Lord who had come to her in a prophetic dream. She had drawn it herself. People grew wary when they saw that a demon had appeared. Belial decided that these unwelcome people were blocking her entire view. Beliar used the absolute territory skill. There was an explosion. The shock wave sent the unwanted people flying in all directions. This skill causes instant death to every living creature 10 levels below her and within its range. The demon said that this was much better. The place where the Lord descends cannot be without blood. Xiaye was frightened and decided he had to run. Beliar heard a rustle and decided that someone was hiding behind a rock. She asked in surprise, could someone have survived the attack? Xiaye decided he was doomed. Suddenly, there was an explosion. The area was engulfed in flames. Xiaye was frightened again. Beliar was outraged. Is this an unauthorized attack on me? The girl looked back and saw the figure of a man approaching. She said angrily that it was Roland. A man emerged from the dissipating smoke. He said that Belial was still as hot-tempered as ever. The demon was indignant. What right did he have to speak that way? After all, he was the one who had attacked her. Roland told Belial not to be so mischievous. Roland was the high priest. He held humanity's most powerful title, the Hope of Humanity. Beliar asked why Roland was here now. The priest replied that he had to destroy the newborn demon lord. Roland added that a prophecy had led him to this place, but he wasn't entirely sure yet. The priest looked at the devastation around him and added that this must undoubtedly be the very place. Beliar flew into a rage and said she would not let Roland entertain thoughts of her lord. In a fit of rage, the demon attacked the priest with her whip. At one point, their eyes met. In the midst of the confrontation, the portrait, painted by Belial herself, fell from her hands. Xiaye continued to hide behind the rock. He was even more frightened. The young man didn't understand why he was still here or why he needed all of this. Beliar had taken significant damage, and her health had deteriorated. However, she declared that Roland would not be able to defeat her. The monster screamed that she was already looking forward to a speedy reunion with the Demon Lord. The demon's attack power increased by 20%. She swung her whip and told her opponent that she was ready to continue the fight. Roland thought that Belial had definitely lost her mind. If she hit him with the whip, he would surely die. The priest pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket and decided he would have to resort to this tactic. Belial glanced at the image, and her demeanor changed immediately. The monster couldn't believe her eyes. It was that very man. In her hands was the picture that had flown out of Belial's pocket while she was fighting her opponent. Taking advantage of the situation, Roland struck his opponent. It was a powerful punch to the jaw. Belial flew to the side and fell not far from Xia Ye. The young man was frightened once again. Belial got up from the ground. The card bearing her master's image lay nearby on the ground. Belial let out a loud cry. The card was damaged and her master's face was no longer on it. The demon said that the priest was using dirty tricks. He had despicably taken advantage of her pure feelings for the king. Belial declared that she would never forgive such an insult. Roland had defiled the face of her master, the face of the demon king. At that moment, the demon noticed the young man hiding behind a rock. The protagonist's face turned pale with fear in an instant. Belial broke into a smile and said she had been eagerly awaiting this moment. At last, the demon king had arrived. Roland continued his attack. He swung his blade and lunged at the demon once more. Belial didn't have time to react. Her body was sliced in two. Blood spurted in all directions. The priest, still clutching his sword, declared her finished. He walked unhurriedly toward the demon's body lying on the ground. Xia tried to literally blend into the stone, just so he wouldn't be noticed. Roland said that Belial was worthy of being one of the 7 demon kings. Xia, splattered with the demoness's blood, didn't know where to turn. His health bar was at a minimum. The red bar above the priest's head had almost disappeared. The young man thought that Belial had driven him into such a dangerous situation. The priest added that it was already too late to change anything. He had set the traps. Roland noted that when the demon king arrived, he would instantly fall into the trap. Then he would be destroyed. The priest said that if this was the demon king's initial form, there would be no problem. At one point, Roland looked back and saw a young man standing behind him. The priest was surprised. When had the demon king managed to appear there? Why was he standing silently behind him? Roland activated his perception skill. However, he was unable to determine the opponent's level. The level turned out to be too high and could not be measured. Status was unknown. Class, Destroyer. Roland thought, could he really be at a 4-digit level? But how is that possible? The priest thought that in such a situation, even in his prime condition, he wouldn't stand a chance against this demon king. Roland surmised that perhaps the demon king had his own plan. He wanted the priest to fight his subordinates one-on-one and then beat him unconscious and cut off his head. He was definitely facing a cunning, treacherous, and extremely cruel devil. Xia realized that there was no escaping now. The young man stood up and fixed his gaze on Roland. The priest was genuinely terrified. In Roland's imagination, the young man's gaze suggested that he was furious that these filthy little people had dared to lay a hand on his subordinates. So the demon king was truly enraged. Roland broke out in a cold sweat. He realized that his end had come. However, the demon king unexpectedly handed him a vial of liquid. It was a health restoration potion. Xiaomei told Roland that his health was low, but this was all he could offer. Roland was surprised. Could it be that he was facing a demon who didn't know his own purpose? The convergence between Earth and this world had reached 30%. People on Earth had successfully awakened as players and began fighting monsters. The city continued to burn as the battles raged on. The assistant said that in light of this, they would continue to follow their plan. The boss replied that helping the players was their job as NPCs. The boss asked how Roland was doing. The young man reported that the boss-rank monster, which had foreseen the birth of the Demon King, had been successfully destroyed. If they destroy the newborn Demon King, they will be able to win with ease. The assistant added that this could be entrusted to Master Roland, and they would have nothing to worry about. The boss noted that Roland had been able to devise a plan and carry it out. He was truly worthy of the title Hope of Humanity. At that moment, Roland was prepared to die. The wounded priest stood before the Demon King, who possessed the maximum level. Xia was surprised. Could it be that the man didn't want to drink the potion? Roland looked at the concoction with suspicion. The priest thought that the Demon King was trying to avenge his own. Most likely, he was holding poison. Roland understood that the Demon King could easily destroy him, yet he preferred to slip him poison. Most likely, he wouldn't let him die so easily. Most likely, the Demon King wanted the priest to suffer in agony before finally dying. How cruel this Demon King was. Xia repeated that the young man should take the liquid. Roland thought that if he refused, he would die anyway. Being ignorant, perhaps that was his chance to survive. Roland gathered his strength and increased his body's resistance to poisons. He boosted his health, magical power, and increased his stats. The priest shouted loudly and, gathering his strength, drank the restorative potion. However, the unbelievable happened. His health level increased after taking the potion. Roland was delighted, for it was a common health potion. Jia had said that was all he had in his bag. The priest realized that the Demon King had terrified him beyond measure. His heart continued to race. But how dare that wretched Demon King treat him this way? Jia noted that at least this guy had managed to avoid death. Roland realized that in this case, that was the absolute truth. The priest asked the young man what he wanted. Jia replied that he wanted to ask something. The protagonist asked how he could get to the safe zone for beginners. The young man explained that it was a place where low-level players with weak combat abilities could train at their own pace. Jia understood that this was exactly where he needed to go, since he had no combat abilities. Roland decided he understood exactly what the Demon King was planning. New players had awakened in the safe zones, players who could defeat him in the future. The priest surmised that the Demon King wanted to destroy them while they were still weak. It was a truly despicable act. Roland couldn't act that way. He couldn't betray them, even at the cost of his own life. The priest decided that, first and foremost, he had to save himself. To do that, he needed to leave this location. Roland was ashamed of his actions. Could he really call himself the hope of humanity after all this? Jia said he was counting on this man's help because he felt that this guy was definitely a good person. Roland turned around, smiled, and waved to the Demon King. He thought he would soon return to the safe zone and contact the high-level NPC. Suddenly, a huge monster appeared above the young men's heads. The monster roared loudly. Roland didn't lose his composure and attacked the beast. Jia crouched down in fear. Jia was impressed. He said that even though this man had low health, he was still capable of fighting high-level monsters. Another monster appeared. It deliberately pounced on Jia. Roland wondered, was the Demon King about to make his move? If so, they would be able to gather information on his combat abilities. However, Jia rushed to the priest and told him to save him. Roland was at a loss. The monster leaped high into the air and prepared to attack the people again. Roland had no choice. He swung his blade and sliced the monster to pieces. Jia continued to cling to the priest's body. Roland thought the Demon King was a pretty lousy actor. Why was he putting on this whole show? No matter how fiercely the monster attacked, he didn't budge, exuding a confidence that came from the depths of his heart. Roland thought that even with absolute power, the Demon King still hadn't realized that the one standing before him had come to destroy him. The priest decided that luck was on his side. Roland stopped and asked the young man to let him go. After all, it was difficult for him to move like this. Jia checked his equipment, which had simply been looted from a wandering boss. A short while earlier, standing before the body of the slain Belial, Jia had asked Roland what he intended to take. The priest thought that common sense would tell an NPC not to take loot from the bodies of slain monsters. Jia declared that in that case, he would take those items for himself. Roland replied that he had no objection. Jia thanked him and decided to keep some of Belial's belongings for himself. Jia said there were divine garments here. Maybe the young man would want to take them after all? Roland refused. Jia was disappointed and said that because of his account's bag limit, he wouldn't be able to wear it. Jia found something else and waved to Roland to come over. Belial's diary had been found. In it, the demoness described her erotic fantasies involving the Demon King. The priest closed his eyes in shame and thought that these demons were truly vile. Under no circumstances must he allow this world to fall into the hands of demons. Jia continued reading with interest. Jia thought it would be just as great if he'd been lucky when creating his account. After all, the young man couldn't level up or gain experience. He couldn't even wear equipment. But first, he needed to find a way to survive. The protagonist looked up and saw his companion defending himself against the predators attacking him. Jia thought that was really cool. It would be great if he could one day become as strong as this big brother. Roland pointed ahead and told his companion that this was the safe zone. Before the young men lay Kangxian University, a peaceful area. Jia was surprised because this was his school. In the public area, people were discussing various news stories. Someone said that Belial had failed and on top of that, had died. Things were looking very bad. Another demoness declared that they should send someone else to meet the newly born demon lord. Her companion noted that only Belial had seen the Demon King's appearance in a dream. It was Babylon, a female demon from the depths of hell, feared as a seductress and manipulator, the mother of many nightmarish creatures. Babylon was one of the seven lords. She asked, if Belial was in trouble, how would they search for the demon king? Mammon, one of the seven lords, said there was no need to panic. Belial had left them a clue before leaving. Mammon held a card depicting the demon king. She said that for now this was all they had to go on, so there was no need to worry. Those present said Mammon had arrived just in time. Babylon noted that, according to information from a demon, Roland had destroyed Belial and left his birthplace. He was heading for a safe zone, and someone was accompanying him as well. Mammon remarked, this means that this someone could very well turn out to be the demon king. Babylon added that the demon informant had sent a photo of the unknown man. Babylon showed the photo and said that the unknown figure looked exactly like that. In the photo was Shah with Belial's blood on his face. His eyes were filled with fear. Mammon said that this didn't seem true. However, it proved that the demon lord hadn't been captured by Roland and was safe. The demonesses decided there was no time to waste. They needed to get ready and find the demon king as quickly as possible. Shaya looked around and asked in surprise, is this really the safe zone? There were many people around, but they were all lined up in queues. What's going on here? This time, Roland decided that the Demon King's game was simply brilliant. However, this smug guy has no idea what lies ahead for him. The entire agricultural university is one big trap. It's a safe zone protected by the gods, with a system called post-burst that can seal all of a monster's abilities. No matter how strong the monster is, it will end up like a fish in a jar. That is determined by the rules of the game. The priest thought that as soon as the Demon King entered the safe zone, they would be able to take control of him and destroy him. Roland decided that the Demon King would perish because of his own arrogance and ignorance. Then, as the prophecy stated, he would become the hero who would lead the players to victory over the Demon King. The young people were met by two NPCs, the boss and his subordinate. They saw that before them stood the hero who would lead the players to victory over the Demon King. The assistant was surprised, for he hadn't expected Roland himself to visit them. He said it was a great honor for him. Roland replied coyly that his person wasn't worthy of such praise. The young man had heard that the priest had gone to clear out the Demon King's birthplace in order to strangle him in his cradle. Roland was startled and told them not to say another word about it. The NPC asked if the priest had done it. Had he torn the Demon King to pieces? How had it all gone anyway? Shaya said that Mr. Roland turned out to be an amazing and very good person. The NPC was surprised. Was it really still unclear who he was? The NPC added that standing before them was the hope of humanity, Roland Lee. The prophecy refers specifically to him. He is the one who will unite all the players to destroy the Demon King. The assistant reported to Mr. Roland that construction of the steel bolt in the safe zone was complete. The assistant asked the young man if he knew about the steel bolt. Roland shouted for the NPC to shut up immediately. Shaya watched in surprise as Roland grabbed the NPC and began shaking him by the chest, repeating, "Do you really want to destroy the whole world?" Shaya thought that he too wanted to become a hero, just like his older brother, strong and kind. Roland, that kind-hearted older brother, thought only of how to destroy the Demon King. Roland pushed the young man forward. One more step, and it would be victory for their righteous cause. Roland said that this guy was about to feel the power of the system's energy. Shaya was surprised. What was he talking about? Shaya found himself in the safe zone, but for some reason it didn't work. Roland panicked and broke out in a cold sweat again. Although some changes had occurred after all, the city tower had cracked in some places. Was this connected? Roland wondered. Could it be that he was facing a monster that even the system was powerless to contain? Shaya asked his companion, could this really be the power of the system? Our hero surmised the following. The safe zone was protected by a system possessing immense power. Once inside, a person should be safe. However, this still did not put his mind at ease. Roland was frightened. What was the young man planning to do? Suddenly, something extraordinary happened in the public area. Everything around them shook and went dark. People were frightened. What was happening? Were they under attack? The next moment, everything returned to normal. The NPC assumed the server was crashing. The boss urged everyone not to panic. It was obviously just a glitch. The senior NPC announced that this was a safe zone. They were all protected here by the post-burst device. The NPC added that as long as they remained within his range, he would protect them. They were completely safe. The NPCs looked up in surprise. Did the steel bolt used to look like this? This structure looked very strange. It was no longer a tall, smooth spire. The NPC said that in any case, there was no need to worry. The hope of all humanity, Roland, was nearby. The officer asked Mr. Roland to say something reassuring and encouraging. Roland, standing in the safe zone with Xiaoye, dropped to his knees and shouted that he was very scared. Roland said that the Demon King had tricked and defeated the system, and in the shape of a heart, no less. This was definitely some kind of bad joke. Roland tried to use Steel Bolt to impose restrictions on the Demon King using the system's power. However, the Demon King returned a powerful blow that instantly reduced the attack to dust. The priest said that this was the difference in their power. Roland began to wonder if he should just give up. The protagonist asked how Brother Roland was feeling. They say the server just froze up a bit. It's nothing to worry about. Xiaoye told Roland to pull himself together immediately. After all, others were watching him. The young man reminded him that Roland was the hope of humanity. He couldn't afford to be so frightened. The game had only just begun. The priest decided that this Demon King was behaving in an extremely outrageous manner. What did he really want? Roland told the young man to man up and admit out loud. What did he really want? Xiaoye said that Roland was being too polite. The protagonist added that in that case he had one request. Our hero decided that he needed to master culinary skills if he wanted to survive in the safe zone. Roland had assumed the Demon King would have some terrifying request, but he simply wants to learn how to cook. Xiaoye remarked that Brother Roland would become the hero who leads the players to victory over the Demon King. Xiaoye said that he too had loved stories about heroes as a child and had dreamed of becoming one himself. However, due to an account glitch, he had been thrown off course. But fate doesn't want him to give up. Xiaoye said he wouldn't be discouraged even if he had to become a cook. He would do whatever it took to become a hero. Xiaoye asked Roland to guide him. The resident found this request rather strange. Roland took our hero to the cooking mentor, He. He asked, "Does this guy really not want to fight and is choosing the path of a cook to take a shortcut?" The first aid mentor, Li Bingbing, said that anyone would want to fight monsters if it weren't so difficult. He asked, "Does the young man really think that cooking skills will bring him money? Studying them only eats up funds. Usually players carefully control their spending. They can earn no more than 10 silver coins in a few hours, but that's only enough to study standard skills." Xiaoye showed the mentors how many gold coins he had, and they apologized. Li Bingbing said there was something special about this young man if he was capable of earning so much. They were NPCs, so they wouldn't threaten him just because he was rich. That amount of gold coins is enough to master a skill, but it won't be enough if the young man wants to quickly improve his mastery. He won't be able to turn a profit unless he raises his cooking skill level. Now that the two worlds have merged in such a short period of time, all the new players and resources are running out. The materials needed to improve skills are practically non-existent on the market. The young man can only buy them from NPCs if he wants to forcibly level up by force. Instead, it's better to invest in gear for rapid development. Xiaoye replied to the masters that he had his own reasons for doing so. The protagonist looked at Roland and asked, "Is there really no other way?" The priest was surprised. Why was the Demon King looking specifically at him? He had already frightened him, humiliated him, and now he wanted his money as well. Roland thought that the soldier would rather die than be humiliated like this. He could no longer hold back. Roland took out a bag of money and told the protagonist that this was all he had brought with him. The young man took the money and said he didn't want to borrow it from Brother Roland. Li Bingbing declared that it wouldn't be enough anyway. Xiaoye looked intently at Roland again. To settle the debt, Roland decided to give up his clothes, but that wasn't enough. Next came his sword. However, the mentor said that wasn't enough either. In the end, Roland was left in nothing but his underwear. He claimed that some fans were willing to pay a pretty penny for that. The priest was furious. He believed that the Demon Lord had taken everything from him, even his last pair of underwear, the dream of any fan. Li Bingbing declared that this still wasn't enough. The lowest production skill is equivalent to a C-rank combat skill. Mentor He asked if Mr. Roland didn't have an expensive watch. Roland was upset because it was a coming-of-age gift from his father. Li Bingbing asked the protagonist why Mr. Roland treated him so well. Maybe he thinks the young man has potential? Xiaoye held the priest's watch in his hands and said he didn't understand it himself. Xiaoye explained that he had told Roland about his desire to become a hero and asked for his support, but he never could have imagined that this guy would take it so seriously. It looks very touching. The hope of humanity began to hate this world. Li Bingbing told our hero that if he wanted to make some extra money, he could go to the NPC merchants. Newbies usually make money by selling items they find. The shopping center is a system shop. An E-class rat tail costs 3 copper coins. E-class underwear costs 8 copper coins. An E-class skeleton finger costs 32 copper coins. The managers, interacting with the players, offered them fair compensation for their valuable and not-so-valuable items. The manager offered the player 1 silver coin and 20 copper coins for the helmet. The player thought that wasn't enough. The player thought that with such earnings, he wouldn't be able to level up a single skill. Shaya also headed toward the manager. A tearful player was walking toward him. Our hero thought, no matter how the world changes, money will always be the main problem. The protagonist said he had a few items for sale. The manager replied that he was willing to take a look at them. Shaya presented a holy sword, a long coat, a pair of shorts, and a gold watch. The manager was surprised, for before him were S-rank items. The employee thought he had seen these items somewhere before. The manager recalled the appearance of the priest, the hope of humanity. The manager realized that these items belonged to Mr. Roland. Shaki took Belial's sexy lingerie out of his bag. One of the visitors asked if that belonged to Mr. Roland as well. The manager thought that all of this looked rather strange. The employee said that among the items presented, there were 2 unidentified objects, so they needed to be appraised. The manager activated the appraisal skill and was extremely surprised. They were devil's horns, raw materials used in medicine, cooking, and jewelry. They possess a powerful aphrodisiac effect. A piece of the demon Belial's clothing was also identified. All of this was worth an incredible amount of money. The manager was thrilled. The player was outraged. He had received 2 silver coins for heavy armor, while this guy was given 300 gold coins for a piece of cloth. The manager said that this player didn't understand anything. The employee stated that for some things, the thinner they are, the better. The manager held the fabric up to his face and said it was soft and light as air. He also smelled a mixture of perfume and salt. He decided that the value of this item should be twice as high. A fabric that had rested on Belial's chest and smelled like such a woman must be worth an incredible amount of money. The manager declared he was willing to pay 700 gold pieces. The price of this item was immeasurable. Shaya was satisfied. The employee advised the young man not to sell it, because the item would end up being recycled and no one would ever see it again. Shaya said that this item couldn't be passed on to others either. It was not for exchange or sale. The manager said the young man could keep it for himself. Although he would look rather unconventional in this outfit, he would be able to wear it once he reached a certain level. This would be a huge leap for him. He would be able to easily defeat many players. As a result, Belial's outfit was sold and recycled by the system. The same thing happened to the horns. The manager considered this a real waste. In this world united by players, some aim to defeat the final boss and save the world. The goal of other players is to dominate the arena and rise above the rest. However, there are also those who explore the open world and discover its new possibilities. But there are also so-called whales who can buy an entire group. Thus, even without combat skills, you can take part in defeating the final boss. With enough money, you can get by without even a sword. The monster has been destroyed. Another achievement has been unlocked. The young man has acquired the savior skill. The crowd was bewildered. Who exactly is this Sha Ye? He destroyed the demon with a single blow. This young man has chosen the path of a hero. As long as he has money, the player can carve out his own path of the hero. Thanks to his wealth, the girls said that Mr. Xia Ye was an idol and a savior. With money, you can get others to fight for you and tell the master to just relax because they'll handle everything themselves. The mere thought of this gave him faith in a bright future. The young man definitely wanted to become the #1 master chef. The mentor asked the young man how things were going and how he was doing. Shaya replied that he had already reached the maximum level. The mentor said that the next stage was the intermediate level. It would be much more difficult there, so he needed to keep working hard and learning new skills. The mentor was surprised when Shaya walked past him without even noticing. The protagonist said that he had already reached the maximum level in everything. Shiri was surprised. Had this guy actually maxed out even the Grandmaster level? From that moment on, the Demon King, without even realizing it, set himself the goal of defeating himself. The NPC's mission is to help players grow. The player's mission is to defeat the Demon King, but simply surviving in this world is already no easy task. The protagonist decided it was time to make a decision and plan his next move. Shaya made his way purposefully to the team assembly hall. The young man had heard that all the team members had already reached level 15. One of the young men said that, based on combat power rankings, their team was among the top 5. They perform their duties professionally and can handle level 6 monsters. Shaya heard about the team captain, who used to be a professional player. Qin Haojun was a level 16 professional rogue and ranked 2nd in combat power. He said they could set out since their supplies had already been restocked. Lu Ju, a level 15 archer, told the captain that their team needed one more player, since the monsters were getting stronger and stronger. Hao Zhan replied that if they took on anyone else, they'd have to share the loot with them too. He added that he had calculated everything. The four of them would be able to handle it. Among the players was also An Lu, a professional assassin. Her level was hidden from prying eyes. Shinhausen noted that efficiency was crucial for professionals. If anyone started falling behind, he would kick them out and find someone else, even if it were his own sister. Obara said she would do everything possible just so she wouldn't get kicked out. She was a level 16 priest. The squad commander said that in that case, the girls would have to give it their all. The squad commander received a message that a certain Jia was asking to join the team. Hao Zhan was surprised. Where did this oddball come from? The squad leader rejected the request. Qin Haozhen suspected something was amiss and said that this guy wouldn't be able to fool him. Haozhen rejected the request several times in a row, but the young man proved persistent. The next time, Xia Ye sent a trade request. Curiosity got the better of him, and Qin Haozhen agreed. The system reported that 10 gold coins had been sent to the squad leader. Hao Jan couldn't help but exclaim, "How is that possible?" He had managed to save only 2 gold coins, yet this guy had 10, and he was willing to just give them away. Due to a lack of resources, learning combat skills required careful calculation. First, you need to master the necessary skills. 10 gold coins would be enough to learn the skills and choose high-class equipment. The leveling speed would increase 5-fold. Haozhen was baffled. Who could possibly be so wasteful with gold coins? Even stranger was the fact that anyone had such financial resources at all. Maybe he was a con artist? After a moment's hesitation, the squad leader said he couldn't turn down such an offer. Qin Haozhen agreed and said that this Xia Ye was quite foolish to have simply given him 10 gold coins. Another message arrived with a request. Xia Ye wanted to join the team. When they met, Qin Haozhen realized that Xia Ye wanted them to escort him home. The protagonist explained that he had asked around, and people told him that the place was occupied by 18th level moles. The young man added that he couldn't go there alone, which was why he wanted to hire this squad. Lu Ju told him not to make a fool of her. They weren't in the charity business. Their rating was what mattered to them. Haozhen wondered why Lu Ju was so heartless, since they were being paid generously. The captain reminded them that if they wanted to become a professional team, they had to be guided by love for their fellow human beings. He added that they would take on this job. Lu Ju told the captain that they had a high ranking among the other teams. How could they possibly take on such a task? Haozhen suggested the girl take a look and pointed to the information board. Lu Ju was surprised. Where did the captain get so much gold? Could it really be from that frail-looking gnome? Did he give away all his gold coins? The archer speculated that there was a treasure in that place that the guy wanted to reclaim. That's why he was willing to pay 10 gold coins. Qin Haozhen agreed with this theory and added that there must be a whole pile of treasure there. Obara was surprised. Did the commander really want to steal all his treasures? Haozhen noted that the value of these treasures must be higher than 10 gold coins. This would allow them to significantly increase their combat power. The commander added, if something went wrong and it came down to a fight to the death, then their work would clearly cost them more. Lu Ju remarked that she didn't even know what to say to that. The young people looked up and saw that An Lu had climbed up a lamppost in the meantime. The girl always thought outside the box. She said that if they could win, she was in. Obara told the commander that she had her own opinion on the matter. Haozhen replied that nobody cared. Qin Haozhen, anticipating the treasure, said the hunt was on. The mole hunt began and went very successfully. Every member of this squad was a professional in their field. Xia Ye said that he lived on the 6th floor of this high-rise building. Haozhen told the young man not to worry. Even though these moles were level 18, his squad were true professionals. Once the path was cleared, Xia Ye, accompanied by the squad, entered the courtyard of his building. Obara told the commander that something was off here. Ever since they accepted this mission, she'd felt uneasy. The players didn't yet know that the apartment building was a level 25 quest. Haozhen replied to the girl. Was she really suggesting that she knew how to play this game better than he did? The commander added that if Obara didn't understand anything, she should keep quiet and follow them. If she angered him one more time, he would leave her here to die alone. Xia Ye approached his door and said he had arrived. The young man added that this squad was very reliable and he felt comfortable with them. Haozhen replied that the guy could now go get his things. Xia Ye inserted the key into the door lock. Behind him, Haozhen swung his dagger. At that moment, an A-rank mutated sewer rat pounced on the squad leader. The players were forced to scatter in different directions. The commander's devious plan had not been carried out. Haozhen was surprised. Could there really be level 22 A-rank monsters here? The commander looked back and asked if everyone had managed to escape. All members of his squad were safe and sound. Obara asked, her voice trembling, where the young man was. The players saw that a hole had appeared in the floor. Xiaoye had fallen into it. Hao Jian laughed and said that the guy had disappeared. And Lu rushed down and said she would save him. Hao Jian was surprised. Why do that? The huge sewer rat hadn't gone anywhere and was still near the hole. Qin Haojian looked at Lu and said that this wasn't necessary at all. Luju told the commander that they had one major unresolved problem. Luju noted that even if the team was put together wisely, cooperation was happening behind the scenes, and it was unlikely that 3 players could defeat an A-rank monster of that level. Obara expressed doubt that they had any chance. Luju objected and said that they did have a chance, but the risks were very high. The treasure was right under their noses. They had spent a lot of time on this, and it would be a shame to come away empty-handed. After a moment's thought, Luju added that for now, they could only take a step back and retreat. Haojun looked closely at the monster and said that something was wrong with it. The sewer rat screamed that it sensed the presence of the Demon King. The rat peered into the hole and said that the Demon King had fallen down. As he continued to fall, our hero realized he might die. But if he died, would his system wake him up again? In many novels, that's exactly what happened. Shia landed and realized he hadn't died. He didn't even feel any pain from the fall. An achievement was unlocked for falling from a height of 20 meters. Shia looked up and wondered what he should do now. The young man decided to wait a little while for the team to come down and rescue him. Behind our hero, the glowing eyes of approaching monsters appeared. The rats approached and asked why the Demon King was there. They spoke in the rat language, so the protagonist didn't understand a word. Suddenly, the rats were attacked and destroyed. Jiaye was surprised. What was going on here? The young man looked at the rats' bodies bleeding out, and Lu stood to the side. The girl said that there was no need to be afraid now. Xiaoye was surprised. How had she managed to get here so quickly? And Lu said that it was dangerous here and they needed to be careful. The girl looked up and said that it was impossible to climb this wall. It seemed they would have to find another way back. Xiaoye suggested climbing the stairs, and Lu said that in that case, the young man could go ahead since of the two of them, he was the boss. Seeing the young man's hesitation, Lu asked, did he really want a shadow assassin to walk ahead of him? After all, it was no secret that her work was done in the shadows. Jiaye didn't understand this girl at all, but the most important thing for him was that she be able to protect him. Lu told the young man once again not to worry. The girl thought he was foolish, because as long as he walked ahead, he wouldn't expect any tricks and would simply leave his back exposed to her. Lu thought he would die without even realizing that their main target was his treasure. He would come to regret his choice. Lu secretly activated the backstab skill without our hero knowing. All that was left was to execute it. The moment the girl struck, a roasted chicken appeared in the protagonist's hands. The blow landed right on the bird, and Lu was surprised. Her well-aimed strike had hit the chicken directly. What was going on? She didn't understand a thing. Xiaoye explained that he had trained extensively in the past and honed his skills. The girl's life force was currently depleted, so it would be a good idea for her to try this treat. Xiaoye was surprised. Had the girl actually brought a knife with her to cut up the chicken? Lu stepped away from the guy. She decided there was something off about him. He looked like a weakling, yet he'd easily parted with 10 gold coins and possessed culinary skills. He was able to use the cooked chicken as a shield and completely blocked her attack. Lu assumed he knew about her strike. Even a level 16 warrior couldn't remain unscathed while using a shield. Killer thought that this guy must be hiding some big secret. She needed to be more careful. There was probably something poisonous in that chicken. If she ate even a single bite, she could fall under his control and become a puppet in his hands. Lu decided she wouldn't eat the chicken, but she couldn't resist and tried a bite anyway. Xiaoye asked if she liked it. Lu came to her senses, but it was too late. It was the smell that made her unable to resist and take a bite. The girl felt a pleasant sensation throughout her body. This made her terribly embarrassed. After that, she leveled up. Now Lu was no longer a trainee assassin, but a real assassin. The girl thought that this little chicken had not only made her feel better, but had also improved her skills. It had directly raised her rank. Lu realized that what she was holding wasn't just a chicken, it was clearly a modifier. Lu weighed the balance of power. She was a professional shadow assassin, with even the most powerful players on her list. Standing before her now was just an ordinary guy. Could he really be much more powerful than the one she called her commander? Lu bowed and said that from now on she would carry out any orders from the boss. Xiaoya was surprised. Could it really be that quick? Xiaoya thought that the assassin had decided to marry him, even though he had merely offered her a chicken. What is the world coming to? Xiaoya told the girl that he had no intention of keeping her in his debt. He wouldn't mind if she simply protected him. The protagonist added that after all, he was the one who had paid for the security and escort. And Lu was a little confused. No one had ever treated her like that before. The girl said she understood everything and would protect Lord Xiaoyu. Qinhaozhen fended off the attack of a giant mutant sewer rat. The giant mutant sewer rat was destroyed. This monster no longer wanted to get up. It believed it had mistakenly wounded the Demon King himself and did not deserve forgiveness. The mutant rat bit its tongue and took its own life. Before dying, it forgave itself for this mistake and restored its inner peace. Qinhaozhen was surprised. Could it be that the mutant rat had committed suicide? Obara said that seemed likely. A squad commander with a 6-level difference had managed to defeat an A-rank monster. Was Haozhen really that skilled a player? Haozhen had unlocked the title Extremely Strong Man. The commander hadn't expected such luck to be waiting for him. Maybe he was the main character after all. What other abilities might awaken within him? Obara felt that this shouldn't be happening. She felt uncomfortable in this place. Haozhen noticed that all of this was groundless anxiety. The squad commander declared that he was an extremely powerful man, since he had destroyed a level 22 elite monster with a single blow. The group leader turned to Obara and said he had nothing to fear. The girl was frightened and said that danger was lurking behind them. Haozhen didn't understand where she was looking with such frightened eyes. Obara said that the commander was looking the wrong way. The monster was behind him. Qinhaozhen was attacked, knocked aside, and fell to the floor, losing half his health in the process. Haozhen was baffled. How was this possible? Standing before him was a truly high-level, 35th level monster, a demon cat. The demon cat activated the roar skill and let out a loud roar. Luju and Obara were stunned and immobilized for a moment. Obara wondered why monsters of such a high level could only be found in dungeons. Luju also didn't understand how this was possible. Obara reminded them that even when they first entered this building, she had sensed that something was wrong here. Luju said there were too many level 22 monsters here. Obara asked what they should do now. The commander replied that he would distract the monster, and after that, they would find a way to retreat. Haozhen was attacked by the monster again and flew off to the side. The squad commander shouted for Obara to heal him immediately, since he had been injured. The girl activated her healing skill. Once recovered, Haozhen realized he needed to reposition himself to fight back. The demon cat continued to strike relentlessly. Obara kept healing the commander. It couldn't go on like this for long. Qinhaozhen gradually stopped reacting to what was happening. The demon cat realized that he was facing an extremely strong man since he had managed to stay on his feet for so long. At one point, Haozhen told the demon cat to stop. He was giving up and was ready to die. Luju said that this was a real ambush. Even 5 players wouldn't be able to defeat a level 35 monster. Obara was tense and noted that in that case, they needed to clear a path for Qinhaozhen to retreat. The girl looked back and was surprised. How had Luju managed to run so far? The archer explained that they had joined forces for the sake of victory, but in their current situation, that was no longer the case, which meant the contract was null and void. Obara thought that made sense, but this was too much. At that moment, Haozhen pretended to be dead. Xiaoye went upstairs and stepped outside. The cat saw the young man and rushed to meet him. Xiaoye hugged the cat and said he was very glad that Baobao was alive and well. Haozhen and Obara were frightened and watched the scene in surprise. Xiaoye continued to hug the demon cat and call him baby. Obara was surprised. Could it be that the demon cat, the leader of this dungeon, was the young man's pet? Xiaoye went into his home and started looking for food for Baobao. He also needed to tidy up the litter box and the dishes. Haozhen said that even though things hadn't turned out as he'd expected, at least they were all safe. On the surface, this guy seemed weak, but he managed to tame the demon cat, the leader of this dungeon. He was probably much more valuable than previously thought. As long as he was alive, they could take full advantage of him. Haozhen realized that Enlu had done the right thing. Unlike some of the others present, she was the most reliable partner. Qinhaozhen decided to reward Enlu with a hug from an extremely strong man. The squad leader told the girls not to worry. As long as they followed him, they would remain the strongest team. Enlu drew her dagger and swung it menacingly. The girl declared that the thought of attacking Lord Xia filled her with a desire for destruction. Qinhaozhen, bleeding profusely, asked what on earth Enlu was doing. The girl asked menacingly how this weakling dared to question her. After saying this, Enlu made 2 sharp thrusts with the knife, stabbing the commander and the archer in turn. Obara screamed for her to stop immediately, and Lu declared that these people had no idea who they were trying to attack. Shaya stepped out of the apartment and said he'd gathered his things. Now they could head back. The cat was still sitting on his shoulder. Shaya noted that it was his cat. The leader of the underground was purring at that moment. The young man realized he hadn't been there when the world changed, so he decided to find him no matter what. And Lu bowed again and said that only now did she understand everything. From now on, they were colleagues. Jaya said that one shouldn't think only of oneself. One must also think of those they've tamed. Now, in any case, they must return to the city. Shaya stepped in blood and was horrified to see the bodies of Haoshan and Lu Ju lying on the ground. The protagonist was frightened and shouted, "What on earth had happened here?" And Lu explained everything. She saw that they were wounded and couldn't be saved, so she decided to put them out of their misery. Obara, using her skills, began to heal the injured. Haoshan sat up and said he was only 2/3 healed. What kind of injury was this? And Lu explained that it happened because the squad leader's intestines had come out. Haoshan was surprised. Who had let them out? And Lu expressed regret that there was no hope for recovery. Haoshan was frightened and asked Obara to continue the treatment. The healer stated that she really couldn't heal him any faster. The bleeding was too rapid. She couldn't keep up. And Lu smirked. After all, she had coated the dagger with poison beforehand. Shin Haoshan said that monsters of the 22nd and 35th levels hadn't killed him. Could he really die at the hands of some player? And Lu took out the dagger again and said that they had no idea who they'd decided to attack. Haoshan realized he had indeed made a mistake. It was only now that he began to regret his ignorance. However, it was already too late. Unexpectedly, Shaya said he wanted to give it a try. The protagonist added that he might be able to heal him, holding some object in his hand. In the young man's hands was a bandage made of ghostly fabric with a pattern. It was an A-rank item. It restored health points over the course of 8 seconds. Lu Ju noticed that this bandage was made using the first aid skill. Haojin determined that it was a top-tier bandage. The first aid skill, from the initial to the advanced stages, is the most expensive. On top of that, one must also possess the skill to craft the bandage itself. The healing provided by a single bandage is comparable to the healing output of 5 professional healers working at full capacity. Furthermore, this bandage can be used on defensive warriors right in the middle of battle. But since there was a shortage of fabric in the early stages, no one spent resources on the first aid skill, and they couldn't afford to anyway. Xia said he wants to survive in this world, which is why he considers medical treatment to be the most important thing. For the first time, he has honed his first aid skills. The protagonist added that he hadn't even thought this skill might come in handy before. Shin Haozhan thought that this guy could easily part with 10 gold coins, make the dungeon leader his pet, and master the first aid skill. Squad leader had no idea who he had dared to mess with. He felt like a fool. And Lu decided that they would heal these two first and then destroy them again. The girl thought that Lord Jia actually knew how to have fun. Shin Haozhan and Lu Ju felt frightened. Xia held out a bandage and told the squad leader to use it quickly. Haozhan said it was a bandage made of phantom cloth. Was he worthy of such an item? Xia shouted at the squad leader to stop talking nonsense. What could be more important and precious than a human life? Haozhan burst into tears and said that from this moment on, he was indebted to the boss for life. Suddenly, an information window appeared in front of the squad leader. A transaction request had come in. Xia stated that he didn't want to take the money, but if the squad leader insisted, he wouldn't refuse. As a result of this transaction, Haozhan lost 12 gold coins, and Lu Ju lost 80 silver coins. Xia said that now the two of them didn't need to worry. Since he had accepted their money, he wouldn't let them die. A bandage made of phantom cloth wrapped around the group leader's body. A bandage made of phantom cloth was also applied to Qin Haozhan's body. It was not just a bandage, but a medicine capable of healing even the wound on his back. This bandage also restored his wounded soul. All three received a notification. It was a friendly reminder. Xia had taken all their money. Haozhan thought, so be it. The group leader, the archer, and the healer had all leveled up. The trainee prefix was gone. The injured noted that not only had their wounds healed, but their bodies had also been renewed. An upgrade had also taken place. Haozhan thought that it must be a modifier hidden under the bandage made of phantom fabric. The young men bowed and thanked the boss, thereby expressing their utmost respect. From now on, he was like an older brother to them, and they were ready to risk their lives for him. Xia said he didn't need such honors. It was simply a service to save a person's life. The young man noted that the phantom cloth bandage cost 30 gold pieces. The victims could repay the money once they had it. The interest rate was 35% per year, and Lu decided she understood everything. Through usury, the boss would destroy them in the dirtiest way possible. He was a true professional at his craft. Lord Xia really knew how to have fun. The system reported that the team had cleared the dungeon and earned 50,000 points. An international notification arrived. A squad of players had cleared the apartment building dungeon. Having cleared the dungeon, this squad now ranks first in the team standings. Xia was surprised. Was this building really a dungeon? Haozhan confirmed it and added, "Didn't the boss put the dungeon leader on his head as a pet?" Xia was stunned. Was there really something like that on his head? It wasn't just the squad members who received the dungeon clearance notification. Roland received this information as well. The priest was surprised. Had the Demon King actually cleared his own dungeon? On campus, everyone was raving about the players who took first place. The team that had cleared the dungeon above level 100 was parading through the streets. Xia explained to passers-by that he was just a client and had nothing to do with it. Passers-by said that Qin Haozhan was a professional gamer who had once been a top player in MMORPGs. Haozhan waved to the passers-by and said that everyone here already knew about him. Haozhan admitted that they had cleared the dungeon thanks to his older brother. At that moment, a voice said that he offered his congratulations. The players looked back and saw Priest Roland standing on the road ahead of them. Roland believed he shouldn't say anything unnecessary. The identity of the Demon King must not be revealed. Roland said that few were capable of such a feat. On behalf of the Heavenly City, he expressed his gratitude and congratulations. Xia was delighted to see Roland's younger brother. Roland bound the players with a whip and said he was inviting 4 warriors to come with him personally to receive a medal. Those around them were surprised. Why only 4? Xia explained once more that he was the client, which is why he wasn't chosen. Roland hinted to Haozhan that he was talking too much. Was he really going to get himself killed? The group leader was frightened. Could the hope of humanity really have such a formidable temperament? Roland told the squad that he wanted to summarize a few things. This man has a very complex personality. Luju was surprised. What is the priest talking about? Roland asked if these players knew why that guy hadn't mentioned his rank in class. Luju replied that he was simply hiding them. Roland said that it was much more complicated than that. This guy didn't have any. The priest remarked that Xia wasn't a player at all. Everyone present asked what that meant. And Lu admitted that he was a demon. Obara was frightened. What were they talking about? And Lu noted that with such incredible power, he must be a high-level demon. Roland hadn't expected the quiet girl to be so smart. He felt relieved. His guess had been correct. But he is many times more terrifying and dangerous than ordinary demons. After a pause, the priest said that this guy was actually the Demon King. All the players were surprised except for Enlu. Killer smirked and said that wasn't bad. Roland said that the Demon King had disguised himself well as a simple newbie. He had even started thinking like a simple newbie. To prevent the worst possible outcome, his actions must be controlled. The priest added that he was ready to reveal his hand. If forced to expose himself, it would lead to massive destruction. Roland said that this squad held top positions in the rankings, so they were also humanity's hope. Roland extended his hand and offered his cooperation. We must find a way to deal with the Demon King. Haozhan shook his hand and said that victory was now guaranteed. The priest smiled. The deal was done. He said that was their agreement. They must seek justice together. That way, they would save the world. Luju remarked, they say his combat prowess is unmatched. Did the squad leader really want to cooperate with Roland and go against Xia? Huozhen declared that this was not the case at all. He had simply deceived this NPC. The commander said that as a professional, he clearly sees what is happening. No one in the world can match his power. Why should he risk his life and become his enemy? Huozhen remarked that someone who betrayed him at the most dangerous moment had no right to lecture him on the righteous path. Luju said that was indeed the case. But in any event, their main goal was victory. And Lu declared that if they wanted to be Xia's servants, she saw no harm in leaving the team. The commander was surprised. Wasn't this the same girl who had recently seemed submissive and easygoing? Haozhan remarked that the next time she attacked her comrade, he would stand up to her. Enlu replied that everything would depend on the situation at hand. Obara said she would like to stay with the squad. Haozhan cut her off mid-sentence and said that was great. Obara pointed out that she hadn't finished speaking. The group leader declared that together they would become villains. From that moment on, a team of humans joined the Demon King's side for the first time. The senior NPC heard that a team of players had appeared who managed to clear the dungeon. The junior NPC acknowledged this. The assistant noted that humans are persistent. They can often push beyond their limits and achieve unexpected results. The boss said that was simply magnificent. Now they had a chance to defeat the Demon King. The assistant added that he had two pieces of news, good and bad. The young man told the boss that Roland had returned. The boss asked, "Did that mean the mission to destroy the Demon King had been successful?" The assistant said that the bad news was that Roland had brought him. The boss was surprised. What did "brought him" here mean? Could the priest be playing some kind of game? The young man added that Roland had sent a message. The Demon King was not born as an infant, as they had assumed. In fact, he is an adult. Roland himself is ready to discuss all the details with the boss and senior management. The general himself has been invited to the meeting room. The junior NPCs unanimously greeted Lord Roland. The assistant approached the priest and said they were already waiting for him. The assistant added that if Mr. Roland needed anything, he could ask at any time. The priest thanked him. In the conference room, there were numerous screens on the wall displaying the NPC's top leadership. It was decided to discuss what had happened. What had happened to the Demon King? The priest explained that the situation had taken a turn they hadn't expected at all. The Demon King was able to twist Bert's steel into the shape of a heart without using his hands. Even the system artifacts couldn't hold him back. He possessed immense power. Roland suggested that the Demon King had forced them to agree to join the human race. They had to compromise, and the Demon King had softened. Questions poured out. Why did the Demon King need this? Roland said he should have guessed the Demon King's true intentions right away. The NPCs said that they expected nothing less from the wise Roland, the hope of all humanity. The priest said that the Demon King's goal was to infiltrate the players' society, to sow discord in the political system and coalitions. That way, he would be able to easily destroy all of humanity. Roland explained that when he met the Demon King today, the latter had infiltrated the most promising team of players. The representatives of the High Council asked if Roland had taken any measures. The priest added that, fortunately, he had arrived in time and successfully thwarted the Demon King's plan. He had also managed to establish a friendly partnership with Qin Haozhan, the squad leader. The representatives of the High Council realized that the Demon King had created the dungeon to assert his prestige and confuse the people. Currently, there are two types of monsters in the game world. The first type is under the command of the ultimate evil, ruled by demons. These are animals and plants that have mutated on the ground, such as the mutant rats from the dungeon. The second type, like the NPCs, the fate-bringers of the earth, are demons. They are under the command of the Demon King and are the main enemies of this world. The Demon King rules over all demons and intends to destroy the world. This is the main plot of Fate of the Earth. The power of demons is incomparable to that of mutated animals. Only the most elite among them can call themselves leaders. The final boss of the dungeon was a leader of sorts. The dungeon is a fortress established by the Demon King's army on Earth. To achieve his goal, he even unleashed one of his evil creations. His ambitions know no bounds. One of the NPCs asked, "Has this Demon King truly lost his memory, or is he completely unaware of his true nature?" Everyone looked at the questioner in surprise. Roland noted that all the Demon King's actions do indeed seem innocent. However, this is even more frightening because of its sophistication. The priest admitted that they currently had no way to fight the Demon King. All they could do was wait for the players to arrive on the ground and level up. Then they would have a chance to battle the enemy. Until then, the Demon King must be contained. The High Command acknowledged that their only hope now lay with Roland. He was their only way out. Gibbet said that for now, he could only observe the Demon King. He would report on the results periodically. Roland was once again convinced that he was the future of all humanity. Xiaoya could finally relax. The young man felt at ease. The young man held a stack of money in his hands and thought it was quite ironic. The world currency had turned into ordinary waste paper. In this dangerous game world, a safe zone was the rarest resource. The young man had acted wisely when he bought a house in the safe zone. His home now consisted of an entire administrative building. He had to spend all his gold coins on it. In this way, our hero could at least guarantee his own safety. Xiaoya believed that he couldn't just sit around and wait for housing prices to skyrocket. The protagonist wanted to participate in the game. But since he wasn't a player and lacked the combat skills, he needed to find a way to make more money. Xiaoya decided to use his production skills, helping others and taking a commission from them. He could also collect various items and sell them or trade them for money using the resources he already had. The protagonist decided to sell the Belial egg. Xiaoya remembered that he had sold her horns and clothes for a good price, so the egg should be the same. Suddenly, the young man tripped, fell, and dropped the egg. It hit the ground and cracked. Xiaoya was afraid that the egg would now lose a significant amount of its value. The Belial egg was carefully wrapped in a ghostly bandage. Shaya decided to sell it at dawn before it completely fell apart. The young man decided to order some food, take a shower, and go to bed. Overnight, the egg underwent a transformation. A creature emerged from it. A demoness came into being. She said she was the great Belial, one of the 7 heavenly kings. She had been reborn under the protection of the Demon King. Belial hadn't expected to appear here, but it didn't matter. The Demon King would destroy the world anyway. It was destined to be so. Belial mentally asked the Demon King to wait a little longer. She would find him soon. Belial looked back and saw the leader of the dungeon, the cat Bao Bao, standing before her. The demoness expressed obvious bewilderment. Where had this monster come from? Belial asked why Bao Bao was here now. The cat was surprised. Did she really know him? Belial replied that she had seen Bao Bao in a dream. The demon added that time had slowed down. She had been immersed in a void and had been dreaming. In her dream, there was a creature that revealed a prophecy to her. When the 2 worlds merge, the devil will lead his army and destroy all of humanity. In her dream, Bao Bao was the devil's closest friend. The great demon himself, ruler of all monsters, was there as well. He was mighty and terrifying. Beliar continued. This creature told her the place where the Demon King was born. Upon waking, she set out to find him and greet him. However, the heavenly city was searching for her, and Roland himself was pursuing her. Beliar added that she was persistent and continued her search without pause. The demoness said she hadn't expected Roland to ambush her right where the Demon King was supposed to be born. Belial added that they needed to hurry and find the Demon King as soon as possible. Bao Bao replied that there was no longer any need for that. The cat noted that the Demon King wasn't a level 1 and wasn't a little baby. He wouldn't need their protection. He was so independent that he didn't even need a maid. The cat added that his current level was at least 4 digits. Bao Bao said he didn't know exactly what numbers were displayed there. The symbols were distorted. He also explained that his personal level was just a disguise right now. The cat noted that the Demon King himself had formed a bond with him, and his level no longer meant anything. Beliar was surprised. Could that really be possible? So Bao Bao could use the Demon King's own power. The cat said that when the Demon King found him, he was at level 35. They had been together for many years, and their natural bond was much stronger. Belial admitted she was jealous. The demoness decided she had to work hard to establish a strong emotional bond with the Demon King. Bao Bao noted that the master had joined a group of humans and was now working undercover. Beliar surmised that the Demon King intended to infiltrate human society and destroy their political system. Bao Bao added that his goal was not merely the destruction of the political system. The demoness said that he truly was worthy of the title of Demon King. He had the power to destroy the entire world with a single blow. His combat power could be compared to an atomic bomb, yet he had decided to slowly savor the process. Bao Bao noted that they needed to stay close to the Demon King and pretend to be worthless. They must not take risks or interfere with the execution of his plan. Beliar realized she just needed to play along. Whether as a wife or a servant, she'd agree to anything. The cat said he had nothing more to add. The demoness seemed smart enough. If the master was taking her, then there must be some kind of benefit to it. Shaya came out of the shower, called the cat, and said he thought he'd heard some talking. Shaya looked into the room and saw the demoness. Beliar said, "Finally, the master has arrived." The young man realized that she had hatched from that broken egg. Shaya was surprised. She was so small yet completely alive. She could move, speak, and even laugh. The protagonist asked if that meant she could be sold for more than the egg. The young man said that before him was a small copy of the demoness Roland had destroyed. The girl confirmed this. Beliar was ashamed to have met the Demon King in such a state. Shaya said he had sold her clothes along with her horns. Shaya added that she would be sold anyway, so she wouldn't need them anymore. Belial was saddened. She assumed that her master was doing this to protect her from the human race. In reality, the Demon King had saved her for his own gain, and now she would be sold for money. Belial smiled and added that this inspired her. Belial said that for the sake of the Demon King, she would have to endure the contempt of humans. She would have to endure their taunts and beatings. A deep sense of self-sacrifice could be felt in her words. Deep down, she felt a sense of nobility. Could it be that the Demon King was short on money? No sooner had a protector appeared than he was ready to sell him off. After thinking it over for a moment, she began to realize something wasn't right here. Beliar declared that if her master needed money, she could offer other options. The girl glowed and appeared before the young man in her full-size form. At that very moment, a courier appeared in the room with a jetpack on his back and announced that the food order had arrived. Beliar glanced at the courier. She was already straddling the protagonist. Jia also looked at the courier, but his eyes betrayed a glimmer of hope. The courier said that this was amazing, that he wouldn't get in the way, and would leave the delivery in the corner. Jaya waved his hand and clarified that the courier had misunderstood the situation. Shaya asked Belial about other possible ways to make money. The demoness replied that she could show her master her special abilities right now. Shaya wondered, what could she possibly be talking about? Belial repeated that she would demonstrate everything right now. The girl closed her eyes and took a deep breath. After a while, Belial drew her master's attention to the fact that the devil's horns had grown back. The demoness removed the horns and asked her master to take them. Belial reminded him that these horns could be exchanged for money. The protagonist felt a chill of horror. The young man realized that these were real horns that grew every day. Now they could be cut off daily. Holding out the horns, Belial asked her master not to sell her. Xia Yi said that now he certainly wouldn't dare to sell her. The young man's conscience awoke, and Belial was able to save her soul. The transaction amounted to 6 gold coins. Calculations were made for the food expenses of the pets Bao Bao and Belial. Xia Yi thought that as long as Belial remained in her mini form, they could save on expenses. Therefore, she would stay in this form until special occasions. Belial asked her master what their next move would be. Bao Bao was outraged. Such a direct question could easily give them away. Xia Yi explained that the essence of the game is for players to improve themselves in order to clear dungeons. However, their situation was different, and their main goal was to survive. Belial said she understood everything. They would simply stay put and wait to see how things turned out. Xia Yi noted that it sounded rather strange, but they needed to save up money so that when they cleared the final dungeon, they could buy the captain of a prestigious team. The young man added that he planned to buy raw materials, send them to production, and then sell the finished products. That way, he would make a profit from commissions. However, there isn't much demand for these items, and the profit margin is small. That's why Belial is so important to him. Belial said she would be a hard worker. Thanks to her horns, the demoness looked quite promising. The next morning arrived. The young man went out into the courtyard and Belial waved to him from the window. The demoness thought it was wonderful. She could help the demon king himself. The assistants reported that the church bishop, Mr. Pucci, had arrived. He was the second highest ranking NPC after Roland. Roland was delighted. Finally, the long-awaited reinforcements. The aides said that once all the high-ranking NPCs arrived, they could begin the offensive. Now there was no need to fear this terrifying demon king anymore. Pucci remarked that they shouldn't exaggerate things. Mr. Roland was greatly exaggerating the demon king's power. Where could a baby, the demon king, possibly get such mighty power? The bishop added that they had agreed to the priest's plan to defeat the demon king. But the king turned out to be quite powerful. Perhaps that's why the fairy tale was invented, so they wouldn't have to admit the plan had failed. Pucci asked if Roland could still be called the hope of humanity after that. An assistant ran in and reported that an alarm had been sounded. A monster had appeared in the south. They called it a dragon, though in reality it was just a mutated lizard. The assistant added that about 8 fortresses had been destroyed, over 4,000 players had been killed, as well as 100 NPCs. Roland said he was already on his way and asked the bishop of the church to wait for him there. Roland intended to prove to Mr. Pucci that he was foolish and arrogant. Roland got on a speed bike. The assistant asked him to be careful. The priest said that the assistant should keep an eye on the demon king in his absence. The NPC was surprised. Was he really supposed to keep an eye on the demon king? Roland reminded him that it was necessary to track the demon king's every move, since he was extremely powerful. The young man asked what he should do. The priest told the assistant to ask him lots of questions and gather the necessary information. Roland handed him a package and told the young man to take it with him. This is the greatest family religion, the dragon claw of the holy Mayas. The assistant was surprised. Could Roland really be willing to give away such a treasure so easily? The priest patted the young man on the shoulder and said that he would succeed. The priest also asked the young man to prevent the demon king from carrying out his plan. Pucci, listening to the conversation, felt very sad. The hope of humanity had become just another mediocre character, like a figure from a cheap comic book. The NPC waved goodbye and said he understood everything. Lord Roland need not worry. The assistant was resolute and said he would carry out everything as required. His colleague asked the assistant, was he really leaving right now? The young man replied that he had an important task and must not make any mistakes. The young man heard a noise and looked up. He saw Bishop Pucci coming down the stairs. The bishop told the young man that he would go with him. The priest added that he wanted to see with his own eyes just how powerful this invincible demon king was. Pucci thought, Could it be that the Demon King has already prepared the means to create an army in the future that will destroy the world? I must meet him. The young man asked the bishop to watch from a distance and not to take any dangerous actions. The bishop was indignant. Was some mediocre NPC really going to tell him what to do? Pucci noted that when he returned to Heavenly City, he would report to everyone just how irresponsible Roland had been, allowing the Demon King to acquire an entire building. The NPC arrived at the gate and held out a gift to the cat, asking him to accept it. The bishop was surprised. After all, this was the Lee family's most precious relic, the dragon claw of the Holy Mayas, and it would be handed over not to the Demon King, but merely for the assistant's amusement. When on earth did this fat cat show up here? The NPC said that Roland had asked him to bring this gift. Bao Bao replied that he hadn't heard of such a thing. Did they know each other? Pucci decided that something must have happened to Roland. After all, he had actually used his family's heirloom to satisfy this animal, which knew nothing but eating, sleeping, and licking certain parts of its body. The cat thought he'd like to have a little chat with this man to stick to his master's plan of infiltrating the human race. The cat took the gift out of the bag and said that this thing would be very useful. You could use it to scratch your back. The NPC was surprised. Could they really be using a legendary relic just to scratch their back? Bao Bao said that if there was nothing else to discuss, these people could leave. The NPC pointed out that he hadn't finished speaking yet. Pucci interrupted the conversation and said he'd had enough. He couldn't stand it anymore. The bishop, using his magical abilities, declared that he would now teach this ignorant creature a lesson and show the cat the full power of a human. The cat suggested that the young man discuss it later. The NPC replied that he would wait. The cat added that he had some work to do, and glancing up, looked toward the sky. A dragon was flying overhead at that moment. Pucci was surprised. How could that be? The young man noticed that it wasn't a dragon, but a mutant lizard. Pucci asked, hadn't Roland gone to stop that very creature? The dragon flew across the sky, and Roland raced after it on the ground. The dragon swiped its tail, trying to knock Roland away. The priest blocked the blow with his sword, though it wasn't easy. Roland dodged the attack and survived. The hope of humanity continued to pursue the dragon, moving across the ground. The dragon flew away. Roland said that if they met face to face again, he would definitely defeat this creature. Roland added that the monster realized it had defeated him and flew straight to a safe place. It isn't interested in the strong, it's only interested in tough prey. The assistant asked the bishop what to do now. Mr. Pucci had exactly the same question. Pucci thought that even though Roland hadn't managed to stop the monster, they still had nothing to worry about. After all, this was a safe zone. They could test the effectiveness of the defense system. The bishop was surprised to see a heart-shaped mask made of ship's hull steel. The NPC reminded him that Lord Roland had reduced the mask to this state when he wanted to use it against the Demon King. Pucci saw the dragon approaching and said the situation was bad. The bishop noted that if the attack failed, and without the protection of the ship-plated steel tower, all low-level players in the safe zone would die. Pucci, looking at the approaching danger, said that this was definitely the end. The dragon attacked the city. The energy blast fired by the monster was approaching the ground at tremendous speed. The cat's eyes suddenly lit up and he responded with an even more powerful beam. The dragon was struck. Its body shattered into pieces. The cat saved the city, vanishing along with the monster. Roland stopped his bike and looked at the dragon burning in the sky. Pucci and the assistant were stunned. Could it be that a level 84 mutant had been destroyed in a single blow in a matter of seconds? The dust from the destroyed dragon scattered in the wind. Bao Bao, feeling his duty fulfilled, lay down in his spot again. The cat turned to the young man and asked what he wanted to discuss. The NPC's brain completely shut down and he forgot what he had wanted to say. The bishop thought that, fortunately, the monster's attack had not succeeded. Pucci raised his eyes to the sky and thought that the Lord was still watching over him. The bishop held out the cross to the cat and told him to take it. This artifact had been passed down in his family from generation to generation. Pucci also handed over the family certificate of property and pension savings. Pucci asked, "Why is the young man standing there? After all, he's trying to help. If he needs information, he should get it faster." The cat took all the offerings and said that he was merely a guard cat and wasn't obliged to know everything. NPS asked whether Mr. Xiaoye had plans to stage a massacre in the safe zone or destroy the world, or if there was some other plan that would force people to defend themselves desperately. The young man said he was asking so he could prepare himself mentally. Pucci was surprised. Had he really decided to ask that so directly? The cat said that the Demon King had no plans in the immediate future because he needed money. He added that if there were no more questions, the young man could leave him alone and go about his business. Poochie was surprised. Could it be that all those offerings were just for the sake of this one question? The NPC left with a sense of complete satisfaction. He considered the mission accomplished. At least now he didn't have to worry that the world would be destroyed anytime soon. Xiaoye, in good spirits, returned home. The young man saw Bao Bao and asked why he was lying there. The cat climbed onto his owner's shoulder, settled in, and began to purr. Xiaoye told the cat that he had missed him too. The friends went back into the house together. The protagonist walked past a box of cat litter, and something caught his eye. The young man looked back and saw that the cat had gone to the bathroom in the wrong place. He grabbed Bao Bao by the scruff of the neck and said he had warned him many times not to do this. The young man threw the cat out the door and said that tonight he would sleep in the hallway. Xiaoye entered the bedroom and was extremely surprised. Beliar was there and said she had made the bed for her master. Xiaoye put on his pajamas, lay down in bed, and Belial lay down beside him. The young man looked at the demoness with concern. The boy realized that if they slept like this, they wouldn't pass the test. He felt tension in certain parts of his body. The girl said she understood everything and transformed. Beliar changed her size and became the size of an egg. She asked if that would be acceptable to the young man. The young man agreed. The young people wished each other good night. Bao Bao really did spend the whole night in the hallway. The next morning, a cat was found at the door of the room, dried from the tears it had shed during the night. Xiaoye looked at the little demoness, sleeping peacefully on his pillow. The young man thought she was very beautiful and immediately felt embarrassed by his thoughts. The protagonist noticed a notebook under the pillow, and it piqued his interest. The young man picked it up and realized it was a diary. Xiaoye realized that in this game, even little pets could keep a diary. It wasn't that he was snooping through other people's things. His hands just did it on their own. This diary was dedicated to the Demon King. In it, Belial expressed her feelings, and it was very touching. Xiaoye surmised that Belial was apparently very attached to the Demon King. After reading it, the young man put the diary back where he found it. The young man almost forgot that she was the devil incarnate. The young man got out of bed and headed for the door. He thought that looking at the diary was too risky. Belial was awake, wondering if the Demon King had left yet. The girl had deliberately placed the diary in a conspicuous spot so that the Demon King would see it. Belial thought she was too shy. The demoness poured all her love, courage, and determination into this diary, things she couldn't express to him directly. Belial believed that this was true happiness. The next night arrived. Standing at the threshold of the room where Bao Bao had spent the night before was now Belial. As he fell asleep, Xiaoye stroked Bao Bao, who was lying next to him on the pillow. The young man said that this cat was the best. Belial couldn't understand how this had happened. Shin Halson told the girls that after their rankings had risen, their combat abilities had indeed improved. Master Xiaoye had not only healed them, but also improved their skill levels. Luja remarked that it seemed as though they were deliberately trying to please this demon. Haozhan replied that that was indeed the case, but the most important thing was to choose the right side. The group leader added that they would definitely win. Luja said she understood, which meant they would continue to do the Demon King's bidding. Obara looked up and said that someone was approaching them. Luja activated her enhanced vision skill, Eagle Eye. The girl said she could see clearly now. It was a demon, very young but of a high level. It was Babylon, one of the 7 demon kings. Babylon thought that all the forces on Earth had been mobilized, but no one had been able to find the Demon King. They could no longer wait idly. The Demon King's disappearance was directly linked to Roland. That meant he had to be captured and interrogated. Luja surmised that her destination was the safe zone and that she was searching for the Demon King. Haozhan speculated that she was a colleague of the Demon King. The group leader said they had a chance to strengthen their ties. They needed to greet this demoness. As Babylon descended lower and lower, she saw a group of people on the roof of a ruined building. The demoness assumed the players had set up an ambush as soon as they found out she would be flying by. Babylon was surprised to see their levels. Only 3 days had passed and the leader's level had risen to 24. Babylon decided she couldn't ignore this. Otherwise, it could lead to disaster. These players would have to be eliminated. Haozhan asked in a friendly tone, "Is the demoness here to find Xiaoye?" Babylon didn't answer. She simply delivered a devastating blow to the man. Luja was outraged when she saw Babylon land on the platform next to them. Obara also looked at the demoness suspiciously. Babylon moved in close to the archer and stared intently at her with her glowing eyes. Luja wanted to explain the situation, but the demoness attacked her as well. Obara saw her friend, having taken damage, fly far off to the side. Obara immediately began performing a 3rd-degree healing using her unique abilities. Babylon asked the girl if she could help in any way. Babylon couldn't attack Obara. Something was blocking her strike. The source of the block was Enlil, a killer whose level could not be determined. Babylon was surprised. How was that possible? Could killers even use a shield? But even if it were a regular shield, how could it stop her strike? Instead of a shield, Enlil held a chicken in her hands. This item turned out to be an indispensable weapon. Haojan used a healing potion, and his health returned to normal. Haojan told Enlil to hurry up and tell the demoness the truth. Enlil declared that it wasn't just a roasted chicken. Killer added that it was a gift from Lord Xiaoye himself. Enlil struck back at the demoness and declared that she would fight for Mr. Xiaoye and devote herself to him with every fiber of her being. Enlil also declared that she is the greatest treasure in this world. Babylon was dealt a crushing blow. To seal the victory, Enlil struck again and said she called this the chicken that brings victory, the Excalibur chicken. Obara was surprised. At first glance, it was an ordinary roast chicken. However, it was capable of standing up to a 101st level demon. And Liu, holding the little chicken close to her chest, felt happy. She said that Master Xiaoye had sensed she was in danger and had given her this treasure. Haojan flew into a rage. All it took was a few specific words. They too were on the Demon King's side. That phrase should have been enough. Babylon said it had been done with utter carelessness. But how could a player below level 30 be stronger than her? Babylon screamed loudly. She couldn't leave things like this. She had to find the Demon King. Haojan was seriously frightened. After all, this demoness was now undergoing a transformation and entering the second stage. The group leader said they couldn't let her go mad. Otherwise, it would be impossible to talk to her. Obara asked the commander anxiously what they should do. Qin Haojan approached the transformed demoness and said that they knew where the Demon King was. At the protagonist's house, Belial was pampering Bao Bao, scratching his belly. The girl heard a loud crash, turned around and saw the aftermath of the explosion far away in the city. Who could it have been? The silhouette in the sky looked familiar to her. Belial couldn't remember for the life of her. Bao Bao suggested that it looked like a scene from some movie. Haojan repeated again that they knew where the Demon King was. The transformed Babylon wondered if these people were to be trusted. Haojan told Obara not to stay silent and to confirm his words. Obara said that the Demon King was in a safe zone. He had disguised himself as a novice player. They had accepted his job application and he had hired them. The Demon King had shown them kindness and extended a helping hand. His bandages helped them level up by 5 levels at once. They succumbed to his charms and decided to serve him to repay his kindness. Babylon listened silently to the player's confession. The transformed demons said they were lying. They should have come up with something more convincing. Who would believe their silly story? Haojan shouted that they had solid proof. The group leader added that he had a photo with the Demon King, taken as a keepsake. Babylon focused her gaze and carefully examined this piece of evidence. The transformed demon compared the souvenir photo with the drawing Belial had made. Babylon flew into a rage. She said that the Demon King looked completely different. These people were indeed liars. Babylon felt deceived and initiated the transition to the third stage. She screamed that she would grind these people into dust. Haojan realized that the negotiations had failed and asked Enlil to stop the demoness. With tears in her eyes, Enlil said that Lord Xiaoye's gift had become useless. Could it really be that this item could only be used once? A report came in that player Lu Jie had left the game room. Babylon, gathering speed, launched her attack. Haojan shouted that everyone could die. At that moment, Belial approached the scene. Bao Bao was on her back. The cats said they had finally caught up to them. Belial said that friendly forces had arrived. She urged the transformed demon to stop. Otherwise, if a battle begins, it could disrupt the Demon King's plans. Bao Bao confirmed that the Demon King is currently disguised as a human and hiding in the city. He is devising a more elaborate and serious plan. The cat demanded an end to this show of force. In that case, he would take the demoness to the Demon King. Babylon continued her assault, relentlessly attacking the group of people. Obara said the demon had gone mad. Why was she so aggressive? Bao Bao was also puzzled. Why couldn't they negotiate constructively? However, Babylon saw things completely differently. Bao Bao decided to subdue Babylon and contra-attacked her. The cat's attack was devastating, and the transformed demon took damage. At that moment, Xiaoye felt no anxiety. He was far removed from the fighting. Unexpectedly, the protagonist felt a cool breeze. The young man was confident that today would also be a peaceful and calm day. At that moment, Belial asked Babylon if she was ready to listen to her. Babylon saw things differently, for she did not understand the cat's language. The explanations were incomprehensible to her. The demoness was deactivated. Her health was at a minimum. Bao Bao apologized. He had simply forgotten to switch languages after greeting his master. The cat asked Belial why she hadn't reminded him to switch languages. Belial replied that she had completely forgotten, apparently getting too caught up in playing the role of a horse while bringing the cat here. The demoness added that she hadn't realized she needed to worry about such details at all. Babylon was surprised. Could Belial really still be alive? In that case, Belial must join her so they could save the Demon King together. They had to completely destroy this safe zone. Bao Bao got seriously angry and said that Babylon really wanted to die right then and there. Obara was delighted since they were all still alive. Hao Zhan noted that it had been a false alarm. Luju declared that she had already managed to write her will. The players began to sort out their differences, making accusations against one another. Luju said she had been observing from a distance. In appearance, the cat resembled an overfed house pet. However, in reality, it was a monster capable of destroying a level 101 demon leader with a single attack. Babylon said she understood everything. Hao Zhan admitted that this animal truly possessed great power. The girls agreed with this statement. The group stated that he had survived thanks to Xia. Obra also supported this statement, and Lu continued to grieve, for Mr. Xia's gift had vanished. Xia returned home and was surprised to find that Belial and Bao Bao were nowhere to be found. The young man began to worry. After all, these were troubled times. Were they all right? The doorbell rang. The protagonist looked at the intercom and saw the visitors. It was Hao Zhan and his team. Xia recognized the guy who had gone with him into the dungeon. Xia thanked the players for bringing Bao Bao and Belial back to him. Hao Zhan said they had stumbled upon them by chance. It hadn't been difficult, and there was no need to thank them so much. Obra thought that it was the cat and Belial who had saved them. Xia shook the player's hand and said that from now on they were friends. Hao Zhan was delighted. Xia told the players to hurry inside. Hao Zhan mentioned that they had brought a small gift. The group leader noticed that it was a small pet. He would definitely like it. Xia was surprised. He already had 2 small pets. In Hao Zhan's hands was a miniature version of Babylon. The demoness had been added to the collection. Babylon was delighted and said that she had finally met the Demon King. Xia remembered Belial's diary and asked why they had brought him yet another pet. He didn't have the capacity to take care of her as well. The protagonist added that the players could keep her for themselves. Babylon was devastated. Had she really been rejected? What was she supposed to do now? Didn't she deserve to stay by the Demon King's side? The demoness believed she had to do whatever it took to stay here. Babylon handed the great demon's horns to the protagonist. The demoness said she had a fast metabolism. That's why she could produce 3 pairs every day. Babylon joined our hero's collection of pets. Xia suggested that the players go into the room and rest a bit. Babylon becomes a new heroine, bringing in 12 gold coins every day. The young man apologized and noted that his place was a bit messy, but it wasn't worth paying attention to. Upon entering the room, Hao Zhan clutched his heart. Bara asked what had happened. Xia was surprised. Could there really be things here that frightened the group leader? The protagonist explained that there were weapons for beginners here, which he had made while practicing blacksmithing. Hao Zhan looked around and sure enough, weapons for beginners were mounted along the walls. They were top-notch. A little further away was some armor. The host said that this was also armor for beginners. There were also dolls in the room that Xia had made in his spare time. Hao Zhan was quite impressed and said that it really looked very cute. Hao Zhan decided that this wasn't a house but a real armory. Xia Yi explained that at first he wanted to sell all of this at the market, but then realized that selling it cheaply would be a waste. So he decided to keep everything here. Xia said that players could take whatever they wanted, but only items intended for beginners. He would sell the advanced weapons later. Hao Zhan was surprised. Could all this really be for beginners? Even the roasted chicken turned out to be very tasty. It wouldn't be surprising if this man had forged weapons that defied the heavens. The protagonist expressed confidence that the rewards players receive for defeating monsters are far more valuable than what he is currently offering. Hao Zhan sat down on the sofa and wondered, could this be a magical item too? Xia told the guests not to worry and to take a seat. He had personally chosen this sofa for them. Hao Zhan sat down and thought that it wasn't just about the sofa. Everything here, the walls, the ceiling, the windows, and even the coffee table, was magical. Xia asked Belial to bring tea for the guests. Hao Zhan looked at the cups of tea and thought that even the water here was magical. It was definitely filled with magic. Xia explained that he had dug a well in the backyard to save on water. The water for the tea had been drawn from there. It was a well of eternity. Hao Zhan remarked, that's simply amazing. Hao Jan thought that, combined with the feeling he'd had upon entering, he'd come to a firm conviction. Perhaps the entire residence had turned into a magical weapon. The group leader thought that now he had finally realized everything. There could be no doubt. It takes no more than 3 days to craft such items. They must join his army to survive in this world. Xia Ye invited the guests to help themselves to the tea that had been offered. Without waiting for a second invitation, the guests began drinking the tea in unison. The protagonist said he had heard about a recent fierce battle not far from the safe zone. Xia Ye added that it was exactly where they had picked up Babylon. Qin Haozhan was frightened and thought the Demon King would punish him for this. Xia Ye added that a fierce battle had apparently taken place there. The group leader said he hadn't expected something like that to happen either. Haozhan was seriously scared and thought that Xia Ye was capable of destroying him. Xia Ye noted that the outcome was good. The players had managed to survive. Now they could enjoy some peaceful time together. Haozhan added that they had indeed come here without delay. Xia Ye congratulated the players on surviving. Haozhan still hoped to pass the Demon King's trial. Haozhan surmised that Xia Ye had come to terms with their defection. He thought it was simply magnificent. The host offered the guests some tea. No one refused. Xia Ye asked Enlu how much of the roast chicken she had eaten. Enlu thought that Mr. Xia Ye definitely knew she was using the chikali burr. The girl answered in the affirmative. Xia Ye said he still had plenty left and would share with her. As a result, Enlu received 20 roast chickens. The players were surprised when they realized that the fried chickens had been credited to them. Enlu thought that the chikali was a precious treasure, yet Xia Ye had given everyone 20 of them. Enlu bowed and said she would never let Master Xia Ye down. Killer looked at her teammates and thought that these people would never let the master down either. She would do her very best. Haozhan thought that even though his teammate was feeling under the weather, it was best to accept it. As long as the Demon King was kind to them, everything was fine. As long as nothing extraordinary happened, they would be able to stand firmly on the winning side until the end of the game. The doorbell rang. Roland was at the door. He had heard about the emergency and had come to calm everyone down. Xia Ye was surprised. Why was Brother Roland here? The priest repeated the reason for his visit, holding a bag in his hands. Roland asked if everything was all right with Mr. Xia Ye. If any help was needed, he was ready to arrange it. Roland saw 2 small creatures in the homeowner's bag. They were female demons. The priest was surprised. After all, Belial was dead. Why was she here? And not alone at that, something was definitely wrong here. Could this entire building have turned into a magical weapon? Of course, Xia Ye is preparing for Armageddon. This entire mission had turned into the Demon King's fortress. Roland wondered, what had they done to offend him so badly? He needed to stabilize his condition immediately. Roland was surprised. Why is the team that cleared the dungeon in the Demon King's house? Haozhan wondered, what is Lord Roland doing here? The priest thought, could it be that the players noticed the Demon King's instability and came here to sort things out? Roland winked at the group leader and signaled that this was good work. He proposed working together to prevent the Demon King from destroying the world. Haozhan had a bad feeling. Xia Ye looked at Roland and asked, do these people know each other? The priest admitted that they were acquainted. Haozhan looked at him suspiciously. The host said that these were the very ones who had put an end to that battle. It must have been hard to survive, right? Roland suspected that the Demon King was deliberately mocking them. He noted that casualties are inevitable in any battle. Xia Ye told the priest that he found this world interesting and didn't want it destroyed. However, he considered himself powerless. All hope now rested solely on Roland. Roland decided he understood the essence of it. The Demon King was bored, so he wanted to destroy this world. The priest declared that he knew what to do. If Lord Xia Ye wanted something interesting, the elves would be able to satisfy his curiosity. Xia Ye was surprised. Are there really elves in this game? Roland admitted that there is an unexplored area, an ancient elven kingdom. The protagonist said he was interested and would like to take a look if the opportunity arose. The priest announced that he would go and capture an elf. The host was puzzled. What did that mean? Haozhan was astonished by this spectacle. After all, the hope of humanity was behaving very modestly before the Demon King. The protagonist was glad that Roland thought highly of him, even though he considered himself nothing more than a helpless novice. Xia Ye added that to unlock humanity's future, one must approach it with great optimism. The priest and the host, without consulting each other, looked at Qin Haozhan. They acknowledged that, at the moment, he was the best player. The team leader said that Xia Ye had misunderstood his relationship with Roland. The priest remarked that nothing could be hidden from Mr. Xia Ye. He had indeed established a deep partnership with the #1 team. Haozhan realized that hope of humanity was now shamelessly using him. Roland added that now that Xia Ye knew everything, there was no point in hiding it anymore. He said he would be honest. This squad would go with him in search of the elves, and they would work together in harmony to achieve their common goal. The protagonist reiterated that Roland and this team were made for each other. After a while, the guests said their goodbyes and Roland said they were leaving. Xiaoya bid them farewell. Haozhan thought he had been completely misunderstood. Roland didn't know what was upsetting the squad leader, but he assumed it was due to the Demon King's pure malice and arrogance. The priest added that Haozhan shouldn't be afraid. Now that the Demon King knew about their partnership, they just needed to find the elf. Haozhan couldn't take it anymore and punched the wall next to the priest's head. Roland looked warily at the cracked wall. Qin Haozhan asked, "Did the kid do that on purpose?" Roland was surprised. What did kid mean? This guy was the first to call him that. He didn't understand where Hao Jian had gotten the nerve to talk back to him. His opponent replied that in that case, he would now demonstrate his courage. A roasted chicken appeared in Haozhan's hands. Roland was surprised. "What is that?" Haozhan continued to brag and asked if this impressed the priest. Roland thanked him, but said he wasn't hungry right now. Luju intervened in the conversation. She told the commander that she hadn't wanted to say anything from the start, but he was so foolish that now she couldn't keep quiet. Haozhan told the archer she'd better shut up. Haozhan believed it wasn't worth getting into a conflict with him. It would be bad if he ruined the Demon King's plan. Roland didn't understand why the squad leader was unhappy. For him, it should be an honor to cooperate with the hope of humanity. Roland reminded them that they needed to open the restricted area, capture the elf, and bring him to the Demon King so that he could postpone his plan to destroy the world. Haozhan remarked that those words sounded as if they had been spoken by an honest man. Obara hinted to the leader that when they were in the Demon King's mansion, Mr. Xiaoya had wanted them to work together. Lu just speculated that he had some deep-seated plans that their minds were not yet capable of grasping. Haozhan concluded that with this statement, the archer hadn't even spared herself. Every word and action of the Demon King was tied to the fate of the world. Would they be able to defeat him? Roland asked the squad leader if they would cooperate after this discussion. For the time being, people shouldn't provoke the Demon King, but avoiding the problem isn't a long-term solution. The priest added that the players' potential was limitless. This squad was the best team, worthy of training. If they worked together, the squad could receive a reward far exceeding their current level. Roland added that his proposal should be a great temptation for the group's commander. Haozhan replied that in that case he agreed. The squad commander turned and left, saying that a handshake wasn't necessary. He was afraid that Mr. Xiaoya might misunderstand him. The protagonist watched from the window as the guests left. He concluded that Roland and the squad of players seemed to have become friends. Xiaoya believed he had to bring Roland and the first human team together. Otherwise, they wouldn't know who to turn to for help if they ran into trouble. Xiaoya considered himself a true genius. The household pets watched their master. Bao Bao didn't really understand what the Demon King was doing, but he considered him a genius. Hao Jan drew his dagger and asked, "Did Roland mention this?" The answer was yes. The priest added that this was still uncharted territory. The ancient land of the elves is a forbidden zone. Roland and the players wanted to infiltrate this place. Roland didn't know what lay behind those doors, but he could say one thing with certainty. The level of the monsters inside was significantly higher than in the current version, perhaps even higher than that of the demons who had arrived on Earth. It is known that elves, along with humans and demons, are one of the parallel races that once existed in this world. The priest added that originally there were not just two races in this world. Incidentally, this is mentioned in the main storyline. Haozhan noted that in order to keep up with progress, he had skipped over all these things. Otherwise, how could he be ahead of the other teams? Humanity's skills and technologies stem from the deity Morsi, borrowing divine power to resist the vicious demons. The two sides fought each other for decades, and the world was in a constant state of war. During this period, races unable to compete with humans and demons for the resources necessary for survival gradually perished. In fact, there is one other race capable of competing with humans and demons: the elves, who know how to harness the power of nature. This is a formidable force capable of shifting the balance. However, the elven princess did not wish to submit to either side. Sacrificing her own power, she sealed the elves away. Since then, the elves have become creatures of legend. Roland led everyone to the spot and said that elves once lived behind this door, but he wasn't sure if they were still alive. This was the ancient land of the elves, a restricted zone. Players were strongly advised not to enter. Haozhan noticed that the warnings were already spilling out beyond the dialogue box. What level is Roland at now? Why doesn't he just send them straight to heaven right now? The priest replied that as long as it pleases the Demon King, the risk is justified. To avoid being caught unprepared, as before, he had brought all the family treasures with him. Hyojan asked his companions, "Why is Roland transporting all this with him?" To please the Demon King, the Hope of Humanity had prepared a lot of evil equipment and led the group to break into the restricted zone in search of treasures. Roland said he had only shown a fraction of it. He would take full responsibility for the combat operations, so there was no need to worry. Hyojan remarked that in that case, they really didn't need to worry. The priest promised to provide equipment, experience, money, and items obtained during the exploration. The squad leader said he was looking forward to it. The priest surmised that his followers had finally realized just how wonderful it was to possess his power. Roland promised to train these people. But in the face of unknown dangers, they must conserve their resources and never engage in battle unless absolutely necessary. A system message arrived announcing the start of combat. A rank A monster had detected them. Roland was surprised since they weren't supposed to be spotted so quickly. Obara warned everyone that she had stepped on some kind of mechanism. The monster said that ignorant humans had appeared, and they should not hope to disturb the peaceful slumber of the elves. The monster was a bloodthirsty beast in the form of an A-rang owl. It told the humans to leave and never return. The owl monster added, "If the humans did not obey, they would be destroyed." Obara said she was very sorry, that it was her fault, and that she sincerely repented. Roland told the players to step back and leave the matter to him. The players obediently stepped back. Roland thought that even though it was his request, a faint shadow of disappointment remained. Why had they abandoned him? The priest produced a family heirloom, an S-class item called the Hellish Breakthrough Module. The players were stunned to see that the priest had managed to defeat the giant boss. Hojashan and his team didn't understand why the Hope of Humanity was using demon equipment. Obara wondered if she should help the priest. The girl was surprised by what Hyojan and Luju were doing right now. The commander replied that they were resting. Obara was even more surprised. The commander spoke as if it were perfectly natural. Roland used a buff and engaged the owl monster. However, it didn't last long. The buff wore off. The priest, armed with a sword, closed in on the owl monster. The monster screamed that now it was his turn. He activated his heavy weapon and raised it above his head to strike. Ober saw this and screamed, if they didn't save Roland, he would die. When the dust settled after the blow, Roland saw a human shadow in front of him. Roland told Hyojan to come to his senses. A player was no match for this monster. The group leader was holding a chicken. The priest was surprised. Why had Hyojan taken out the roasted chicken again? Without saying a word, Hyojan swung his arm and charged at the monster with the chicken in his hands. Roland was surprised. Had this guy really charged forward? Was he trying to bribe the boss with food? Hyojan had to come back immediately. The priest was baffled. Did the squad leader really think the monster would like grilled chicken? The owl monster didn't understand what this level 26 weakling was up to. However, Hyojan used the grilled chicken to enhance his attack. The strike was precise. The squad leader had effectively cut the monster in two. Roland refused to understand how this was possible. The girls were thrilled. In their leader's hands was an artifact gifted by the Demon King. Outwardly unremarkable, it possessed incredible power. Roland told the player that if he had such a thing, he should have used it as soon as possible. Hyojan reminded him that the priest himself had told him to step aside. Roland noted that Hyojan was indeed well prepared. If he hadn't been weakened, he could have destroyed the monster. He was confident in his ability to withstand blows. The priest suggested taking a look at the rewards. He noted that the healing bandage made of runic fabric should belong to the players. The young people were deciding which of them was luckier to open the reward case. The squad leader admitted that the rewards were indeed good. That much money would be enough for financial freedom in the early stages. The ore would be necessary for upgrading equipment in the later stages. Hyojan regretted that all of this was nothing more than junk compared to the roast chicken given to him by the Demon King. Hyojan decided that trading this for the fried chicken was a small loss, but still better than nothing. Roland was forced to admit that the weapon the player had just used was quite powerful. But where did it come from? Could the Demon King have given the player this weapon? Obar said that during the leveling process, they had found a rare treasure chest. By investing a few copper coins, they had obtained super powerful gear. Luju admitted that they had an item capable of easily destroying a level 100 monster. Only a fool would believe in such incredible luck. Roland suspected that they weren't telling him the whole story. Luju assumed she would have to start a fight. The priest looked very suspicious. Roland calmed down and told the players to split the rewards evenly. He would go ahead to scout the area. Lu Yu was surprised. Did he really believe it? Hyojan noted that it was Roland who had reminded him of this. The squad leader added that it really wasn't wise of the Demon King to hand over such a powerful weapon to them. Perhaps he really did want to acquire an elf for himself. That was precisely why he had given them weapons capable of dealing with monsters. The difficulty of this territory turned out to be within his expectations. He already understood that they wouldn't be able to win on their own. Luju replied that she understood everything now. The young people realized that this was precisely why they had to find the elves and let Master Xia Yi verify their sincerity. Obara watched the conversation between the commander and the archer from the sidelines. She found it very interesting as well. The Guardian of the Fallen Throne, a level 108 demon, warned the players that they would be destroyed if they took even one more step forward. The monster attacked the players and sent them flying far back. Roland used a space distortion module to confuse the monster. Hazan used a roasted chicken for a buff. The party leader also used his professional skills, which allowed him to effectively attack the monster. The NPC and the player worked in unison, attacking the monster simultaneously. The monster was defeated. Its health was below 1%. It couldn't understand how this was possible. The monster submitted a complaint to the system regarding a violation. The system acknowledged receipt of the complaint. After investigation, a violation was indeed confirmed. 4 reputation points were deducted from the opponents. This concluded the review of the complaint. The Guardian of the Fallen Throne, a level 108 monster, died from health loss and resentment. Roland said that the Elven Throne was visible ahead. If the elves were still alive, there should be clues inside. However, the elves had sealed themselves away to prevent their power and treasures from falling into the hands of other races. Therefore, unforeseen dangers might await them ahead. The priest added that in any case, they should try and avoid falling into traps. A system message was received indicating that the players had entered combat. Roland urged the players to show more professionalism. Furthermore, to avoid triggering the mechanisms, Obara refused to go alone. She declared that this time, she was not to blame for the outbreak of hostilities. A huge monster appeared before the players. It was outraged. How dare these ignorant intruders disturb the elves' sleep? The monster surmised that these people were clearly tired of living. He issued a single final warning. The players must leave this place and never return. If they obeyed, he would spare their lives. The monster added that ignorance would lead these people to their doom. They could come closer and feel his wrath. Haozhan said it was very similar to a game he used to play. It all looked like some kind of plagiarism. Roland remarked that he had the same impression. The monster told everyone to wait a moment. He would think about their comment and analyze his lines. The demoness studied a collection of classic villain phrases and said she was starting to remember them. The demoness was upset because she had been caught so easily. Unveiling the illusions of the Elven King's throne. The whole team shares the experience they've gained. Qin Haozhan receives an item, 3D projector. Roland said that the teleport is open. It seems that the preliminary task before the Elven King's throne has just been completed. Haozhan noted that the difficulty was so low that he thought it was a minigame. The demoness in the jar said she was merely a projection. Her mistress is the most powerful elf in the kingdom. After the princess's sacrifice, the kingdom fell, and everyone perished. Only she survived. With her power, she protected the kingdom for 1,000 years as the most powerful elf. As long as she was here, no one could steal the elf's legacy. Roland was surprised. Was the demoness really saying that her mistress was an elf? Haozhan noted that it was so obvious that no effort was needed to look for her. The demoness said that these people were strange. The elf had died after tasting a mushroom she found in the forest. However, the demoness couldn't say that out loud. She was the ruler of the Elven Kingdom, the most powerful boss in the region, Furious Mars S-Class, a level 101 soul. The players were surprised. Why was it a soul? Obara asked. Had she really died? Haozhan said that the Demon King had asked them to make this journey for nothing. Roland declared that this was impossible. Without external influence, elves live forever. Roland added that the illusions protecting this place were only destroyed after their arrival. There are no signs of a battle in the throne room, so it wasn't an attack. Haozhan suggested that it might have been suicide. Roland said that was quite a bold guess. Roland pointed to the body lying off to the side. Could this really be the ruler of the Elven Kingdom? Now it all made sense. She had guarded the ruins alone for millennia. In the long river of time, loneliness had consumed her, and she had gradually lost herself. Her soul began to generate evil thoughts, while her physical body and good thoughts sank into a deep sleep. Roland added that the condition for cleansing the dungeon was to defeat her evil thoughts and awaken her. The demoness in the jar thought this was simply amazing. This guy hadn't said a single correct word. Besides, it wasn't a body, but a skeleton long since. Roland asked the demoness if he had guessed correctly. The captive in the jar said that it was flawless reasoning. The young man was very smart. Roland continued, "She looks different from ordinary A-rank monsters. Her strength is S-rank, and he wasn't sure she'd be easy to defeat." Haojan warned that he no longer had the right equipment. Roland took out a certain item and said that this method was the only option. He had brought it to ambush the Demon King. It was the most powerful weapon. The Elven Queen said that an intruder had entered. The stranger's blood would appease her fury. The Elven Queen was surprised when she saw the trap. What was it? There was a bright flash. The Elven Queen readied her blade just in case so she could fend off the expected attack. Haojan asked, "What is this?" Roland replied that he had intended to use it on the Demon King. It was one of his family's treasures, an S-rank trap. However, one had to step on it. The trap, drawing power from the first 4 demons, unleashes a plague, causing massive damage. The downside is that it's extremely painful and impossible to resist. Haojan was surprised. How could Roland's family pass down such a terrible thing from generation to generation? The priest replied that his family had fought demons for many years and collected valuable items from them. The demoness said that acquiring and using were 2 different things. Haojan wondered, why did he feel this way? The Elven Queen felt powerless. She couldn't resist the plague and the intense pain. Roland said that was great. It meant she was under control. The priest put on a gas mask and amplified his power. He activated the skill, Legendary Breakthrough. The Elven Queen was surprised. Could a high-level NPC really be human? The Elf Queen added that he wasn't a human, but a true devil. The demoness in the jar said that was outrageous. The NPC led a group of players to intimidate the elves and used an unethical attack. Haojan didn't expect him to fight with full force. He had underestimated the hope of humanity. The demoness heard about the hope of humanity and said that recently a voice had told them a prophecy. When the 2 worlds merge, a brave man will appear who will lead humanity to destroy the demons and defeat the Demon King. He was named the Hope of Humanity. The demoness said that if it really is him, then it would be better to simply give up hope. The Elf Queen noted that her 1,000-year-old will should not be underestimated. The standoff between the Elf Queen and the Hope of Humanity continued. At one point, Roland wondered, had the trap's duration really come to an end? It was a shame because there was just a little bit left. The Elven Queen said she could not allow this man to take the child they had fought so hard to protect. However, the Elf Queen had simply forgotten that she had been poisoned by mushrooms. With that, the battle was over. It had all been an illusion. Haojan said that Roland had done well. The priest remarked that there was no need for flattery. They needed to examine her body. The demoness thought that after destroying the Elf Queen, all this man could think about was examining her body. Could he really be called the Hope of Humanity? The soul clone vanished in despair. Roland said that this was very strange. There was no reward, and even the elf had vanished. The priest added that this was a little different from what he had expected. Maybe he had fought the boss the wrong way. Haojan asked, did Roland really think there was something wrong with his style? The priest said that if nothing else worked, they would have to take the skeleton to the Demon King. Haojan was surprised because he definitely didn't want to do that. Suddenly, another mechanism triggered. The players were startled. Could this be an earthquake? Haojan surmised that Roland's evil style and words had finally enraged the spirits of these ruins. The squad commander added that someone must have moved the skeleton. The elven seal had been broken. He saw that the priest had already hoisted the skeleton onto his back. This was the highest form of the elven seal, and now it was breaking. The players saw an elf appear, who called out to Sister Mars. It was the elven Princess Sheer, who had awakened after a 1,000-year slumber. She said she could no longer sense Mars. Where had he gone? Sheer saw the people, and on the shoulder of one of them, the skeleton of her sister Mars. The elven princess, who had slept for thousands of years, fell back into a deep sleep. After that, she shattered into pieces. Haojan said that they had finally met an elf. But why did this happen? Roland suggested that they might still be able to glue her back together and save her. Roland said he would go get the glue right away, but first she needed to be undressed. Suddenly, a bright glow appeared. A large beam of light connected the earth and the sky. Before the young people lay Sheer's charred body. Haojan asked what they were going to do now. Roland said that now they could return to the skeleton. And Lu considered this a complete failure. How could she possibly return to the Great Demon King after this? She was prepared to eliminate the squad leader to ensure the Demon King's peace of mind. Luju pointed out that they needed to search the ruins first to see if there were any survivors left. The players headed for the exit. Something in the charred body of the elf Roland caught their attention. The priest noticed a crystal in the body and wondered if it could be the true treasure of the elves. The Elven Stone of Wisdom? In other words, what the Elven princess had actually wanted to destroy with the explosion was what her people had wanted to seal away 1,000 years ago. The priest thought that this artifact was capable of shifting the balance of power. It contained all the knowledge and methods of controlling the elves' power that the Elven race had possessed for millions of years. Haozhan added that, in other words, obtaining it was equivalent to mastering the power of the elves, a third force capable of rivaling divine and demonic power. Roland said that as long as he had this artifact, he no longer needed to fear the Demon King. Now all the humiliations he had endured recently could be washed away. Haozhan asked, "Does the priest really mean to say that they won't hand this over to the Demon King?" Roland said that Haozhan had gotten too caught up in this drama. The reason they were appeasing the Demon King was simply to paralyze him and stabilize the situation. Now there was an artifact that gave them a chance to destroy the Demon King. They couldn't hand it over to him. Haozhan laughed and said that now he understood everything. He finally understood why the Demon King wanted him to go with Roland to search for the elves. The squad commander had assumed that Jaya simply wanted to get himself an elf for entertainment, but he hadn't expected that the Demon King had planned everything and foreseen it all in advance. Haozhan added that there could be no mistake. He had known for a long time that the Stone of Wisdom was here. Roland was surprised. How was that possible? He knows that humans will never be able to control the power of the elves, so he ordered this group to follow the priest the entire way. The Demon King had entrusted them with an important mission. They truly held a place in his heart. Roland regretted having to break his promise, but he couldn't hand over an artifact of this caliber. The priest said he must take the artifact to the Sky City. Thanks to this, the humans would gain confidence in their fight against the Demon King. Finally, they could avenge all the injustice they had endured. In Roland's palm lay the burning core crystal. Roland approached the elf's charred body and asked what the squad leader had just done. Haozhan apologized and added that he hoped the hope of humanity wouldn't be angry with him. Haozhan said it was just a little entertainment trick. The squad leader had used a rogue skill to swap the two items. Roland said that was simply amazing. Were they really going to fight? Did they really think they could win? Haozhan admitted that, in the conventional sense, victory was impossible. However, if they took a brute force approach, things might turn out differently. Luju activated the skill 1,000 shots in unison. This skill was used in combination with the roasted chicken. Luju assumed the appropriate attack stance and sent the chickens flying toward the priest. Roland activated the S-rank divine shield. The priest was baffled. Could it really be that magical fried chicken again? Hadn't he been told it was gone? Haozhan admitted that he had indeed already used up his chicken. Roland said that meant they'd kept a backup plan from the very beginning. After the chicken attack, he was left with only half his health. Roland also went on the offensive against the players, using his unique skills: Free Blessing, Lord's Blessing, and Holy Light. Obara said she would stop the priest. Everyone must flee immediately. Roland lunged forward with his blade. Haozhan blocked the attack by holding a roasted chicken in front of him. The blow was so powerful that an explosion rang out. Under the force of the shockwave, the squad leader was sent flying far backward. Haozhan lost a significant portion of his health. He realized that by using the chicken as a shield, they could attack the priest, but in a direct confrontation, the difference in levels would still be decisive. Haozhan was furious because Obara had said she would stop him. Had she managed to hold him back for even a second? The girl replied that she was trying her hardest. Obara held her hands out again, channeled her magic, and said that this time she would definitely stop the priest. Starfire gathered magical energy in her hands and fired it at high speed in the form of energy bullets, dealing considerable damage. The roasted chicken amplified the effect. Luju looked ahead and saw a massive explosion. The girl said it was a magnificent light, the light of an artifact exploding. Roland thought that the roast chicken was causing problems. They couldn't keep wasting time. They needed to get the Stone of Wisdom as quickly as possible. And Lu crept up from behind and activated the Hidden Strike skill. Roland reacted in time, spun around, and blocked the assassin's strike. The crystal ended up on the ground. Haozhan realized that when the priest attacked, the stone had fallen out of his pocket. Luju picked up the crystal and threw it to the commander. Roland tried to intercept it. Haozhan shouted that he would catch it and reached out his hand. On the TV screen, a woman urged them to stop fighting and hurting each other because of her. Shaya told the girls that he had fixed the TV and was now going to take a nap. They could watch TV without him. The protagonist hadn't thought that after mastering production skills and engineering, he'd even be able to fix a TV. In the future, this would save a significant amount on maintenance costs. To survive in this world, one must plan everything carefully. The demons thought that the master had indeed paid too much to infiltrate human society. Haojun said he had almost grabbed the crystal. However, the player was immediately stopped. Roland pushed the squad leader aside and grabbed the crystal himself. Haojun was surprised. How could the priest have moved here so quickly? Luju said that they hadn't stopped attacking. How was it possible that he had moved there despite their joint containment? The girls saw that the object they had just attacked had, for some reason, turned into a doll. Roland said it was just a street con artist trick. He used a con artist career skill to swap the two objects' places. Haojun got angry. Roland kicked him in the face. The girls were furious. How dare a priest act this way? Roland said it was time to put an end to this farce. The crystal in the priest's hand connected via lightning to the seal above it. And Lu Ju tried to counter the magical forces, once again using the roasted chickens. Roland used the power of an S-rank item against the girls. Unexpectedly, even the chicken given to him by the Demon King couldn't withstand it. Obera said that if humans obtained this item, the Demon King would be in danger. Roland remarked that he had suspected they got along well with each other. The priest asked if the player leader wasn't ashamed to have reduced himself to this state while fighting for the Demon King. Haojun was taken aback. Did Roland really think he had the right to say that to him? The priest added that no matter how deeply people bowed down, they would always find a way to get back on their feet. His prophecies of humanity's victory had never been in doubt. Haojun remarked that he was skeptical of this. The squad leader asked, "Won't Roland destroy them?" The priest replied that he had no reason to do so. No matter how low the players had fallen, there were things he would never do. When he returned the Stone of Wisdom to the Sky City, the players would realize just how short-sighted they were. All squad members recovered their health. Roland took the Stone of Wisdom and carried it away. Haojun said that the mission had practically failed, since such a powerful item had fallen into the enemy's hands. Obara was frightened and asked the squad commander if they could withstand the Demon King's wrath. And Lu thought that first she would finish off her colleagues and then deal with herself. Luju said they needed to return first and report everything. The archer added that the stone's power was too great. Even the little chicks couldn't handle it. It was impossible to defeat. If they sincerely demonstrated their results, the great Demon King would understand them. Xiaoye was surprised by what lay before him on the table. He asked, could this really be the very elf the squad commander had spoken of? Haojun replied that it wasn't quite like that. He held up a plastic bag and said that 30% of those remains were inside. Haojun admitted that the most important part was missing, but perhaps something could be done about that as well. The squad leader looked at the Demon King and thought he was angry. The game world, Sky City. They welcomed Lord Roland back and asked if the mission had gone well. The priest smiled in response. Roland said that everything had gone very smoothly. The people had finally found true hope. The NPC assistant said that was simply wonderful. An assistant reported that Lord Yulia had been waiting for Roland for a long time. He could report his arrival in person. Yuli Dix, the 7th of the 12 members of the Heavenly City Council, was delighted to see that Roland had returned. Yulia Dix asked Mr. Roland why humanity now had true hope. The priest replied that he had obtained it. In the young man's hands was a red crystal extracted from the elf's body. It was the elf's most precious treasure, the Elven Stone of Wisdom. Shaituye remarked that even though he hadn't been able to see a real elf, he was already glad that the players had thought of a gift for him. Haojun saw that Xiaoye was smiling and realized that the master wasn't angry with them. The protagonist admitted that he had mastered the relevant skills and might be able to practice. Xiaoye decided to try to resurrect the elf girl. Haojun got scared again and realized the real reason for Mr. Xiaoye's good mood. The protagonist said that the chest area had suffered the most damage. They should try to restore it. It shouldn't be a problem. Haojun recalled Roland saying that elves store their power in their chests and abdomens. The explosion meant that the elf, in order to avoid falling into the hands of enemies, had released all her energy. It also meant that under certain circumstances, instant death could occur. Her energy and soul had returned to the world's energy flow with the explosion. It was like a drop of water falling into the sea. Such a drop is simply impossible to retrieve. Haojun noted that this would most likely be impossible to do. Xiaoye expressed regret. The protagonist said that in that case, he would replace her with the ribcage model he had created a few days ago. Xiaoye pointed out that even the skin color was roughly the same. The protagonist took out the blank and said he was ready to begin. Although he didn't know how to fight, repairing figurines was his specialty. Shaya thought that this time he simply needed to follow his intuition. Having found the universal key in his heart, all his actions became natural, turning the complex into the simple. Our hero mobilized all his inner resources, amplified his energy, and shouted that everything was going to work out now. Xia Ye couldn't believe the result he had achieved. Haozhan noticed that energy had gathered in the body of the elf test subject. Suddenly, the girl took a deep breath and opened her eyes. The elf opened her eyes and was surprised. Why was the Demon King standing before her? The girl clutched her chest and was terrified. Why had her F cup turned into an A cup? The elf fell back into a deep sleep. This time she didn't want to wake up and didn't want to be saved. Haozhan was surprised, for the elf had indeed been resurrected. What kind of power was this? The Demon King had completely altered the laws of energy. He was omnipotent. Xia hadn't expected the doll the players brought to be so lifelike. The young man added that he liked her. Haozhan was surprised. Did the Demon King really call her a doll? Haozhan couldn't believe it. The elven princess, whom humans and demons had longed for 1,000 years, was she just a doll? And Lu surmised that this was Xiaoye's weakness. Now she understood everything. And Lu thought that the noble elven princess had fallen into Master Xiaoye's hands and had become nothing more than a doll to play with. The master appears indifferent, but in reality, his heart is full of passion. And Lu also decided to find a way to become a woman in order to win Master Xiaoye's favor. Haozhan added that they had another souvenir. A glowing blue orb appeared in the group leader's palm. Xiaoye took the gift. The blue orb, in a demonic voice, told the man to feel 10,000 years of hatred. Xiaoye suggested that the orb could be modified and placed on the door as an alarm. The protagonist said that if the players didn't need these items, he would take them. The young man added that, unfortunately, he had nothing to offer in return. The elven princess thought that these people were using her to make a deal with the Demon King. She was curious what kind of thing could be more valuable than she was. Xiaoye asked if they had run out of roast chicken. Haozhan confirmed this and added that, in any case, it had been incredibly delicious. The protagonist said he was glad they really enjoyed the chicken. Our hero added that he had some top-quality salt-baked chicken and was ready to give it to them. The princess heard all of this. The elf was outraged. Had they really traded her, a princess, for a chicken? The girl couldn't help herself because the chicken smelled too good. The princess thought that the taste of the chicken wasn't the main thing. She had fallen into the hands of the Demon King. What was she supposed to do now? Xiaoye escorted the players to the door and said he'd be waiting for them next time. Luju asked the commander what they would do. Haozhan realized that the girls agreed to return to the team. The archer noticed that the squad had split into two groups. They were responsible for preparing for a surprise attack from behind. Obara said she used the money they earned this time to buy a very nice cemetery. That way, even if the Demon King wants to execute them, they won't become wandering ghosts. Haozhan noted that the Demon King isn't angry with them. Obara said she understood everything and would return now. The girl was about to run off somewhere, but Luju stopped her and told her to leave those spots in the cemetery. They might still come in handy. The group leader said it was simply unbelievable. The elven heirloom they had struggled so hard to bring back turned out to be nothing more than a doll. The Demon King was so pleased that he gave them 10 salt-baked chickens. Haozhan added that the power of these artifacts never ceases to amaze him. The leader added that it was impossible not to feel that being on the right side was great. Roland told the council that he had received the Elven Stone of Wisdom. However, the priest had nothing in his hand. The council members saw nothing and wondered, could it be that Master Roland had made a mistake? But how is that possible, since he is the hope of humanity? One of those present said he understood everything. This is the kind of thing only smart people can see. Another council member added that he could see it, and it was very impressive. Roland didn't understand how this could have happened. After all, just a second ago, the crystal had been in his hand, and now it had suddenly turned into energy and vanished in an instant. A council member said that these weren't the kinds of things only smart people could see. But why hadn't Roland told them about this earlier? Julia Dix told those present to stop causing trouble. The Elven Princess has been resurrected. The Elven Stone of Wisdom is a wise artifact of the elves. Its return to her hands is abnormal. Roland was surprised. Had the Elven Princess really been resurrected? Julia Dix noted that he too was constantly watching the Demon King's every move and had to admit that this guy was a real actor. The priest said that the Elven Princess had exploded right before his eyes, and it was impossible to heal her. Julia Dix noted that Roland was right. When such a situation arises, there are no more than two possibilities. A council member said that Roland had been deceived. Ever since he first went there, he had been under the Demon King's control. Roland replied that he could not argue with that. In front of the entire council, Yuli Dix declared that Roland had betrayed them. The princess thought that these people had truly just abandoned her and left. She felt a sense of resentment. Shaya told the princess that finally it was just the two of them. The princess surmised that this guy really knew she had already awakened. What was he going to do with her now? The elven princess wondered. If she were to fight the Demon King now, would she have a chance of winning? The protagonist placed his hand on the princess's head and told her not to be afraid, since there were only the two of them here. Now she could open her eyes and see that no one would harm her. The princess blushed upon hearing his kind and gentle words. Why did the Demon King's presence make her feel so warm? The elf's passive skill, Eye of True Vision, had been activated. At that very moment, the girl shrank in size. She was still very frightened. The protagonist was surprised as to why she had changed and shrunk. Roland was surprised and extremely indignant. How could they think such a thing? Julia Dix activated the playback of the recording. Roland was in the recording. Now everyone could see his actions. Everyone present, including the priest, watched the image intently. The NPC assistant said that this was impossible because this was Mr. Roland, the hope of humanity. The NPC was attacked and sent flying far backward. Roland was surprised when he saw these images. The assistant was lying on the ground and had been deactivated. The assistant came to and sat up. Julia Dix found herself holding a pistol, which she aimed at Roland. Those present were surprised. What was going on here? The pistol was an S-rank artifact, a gift from God. It was Demon Slayer number 3. The Demon Slayer is capable of borrowing the power of its creator, God Moxie. No one can resist its energy. Roland was isolated. The NPC assistant said that everything the gentleman had said was true. Julia Dix remarked that this would be much better. Roland was outraged. One of the council members said that this wasn't entirely appropriate. Yuli Dix continued to keep Roland at gunpoint. Yuli Dix noted that extraordinary times call for extraordinary countermeasures. Now that the situation had spiraled out of control, more extreme measures had to be taken. Whether Roland was a traitor or not, they would find out by looking at the underlying code. Shaya headed for the exit. Bao Bao spoke up and looked at her master. The protagonist replied that he was going to go and evaluate this doll. In his hands was the elven princess. The young man noticed that he couldn't make her look like an adult. He was worried she might break, so he would go into the store and ask about it. Shaya told the cat to be a good boy and watch over the house. He mustn't let any evil mice get inside. Shaya went outside and looked up at the sky. The young man wondered why the clouds were so dark. Was it going to rain? The protagonist opened his umbrella and said that in that case, the rain wouldn't be a problem for him. Julia Dix, keeping her gun at the ready, asked if anyone else wanted to stand up to him. The gun was pointed at Archbishop Pucci. Yuli Dix reminded him that the Archbishop, just like him, was a supporter of the main struggle. The Archbishop thought that if he could win, he would indeed become the main fighting force. However, the Demon Slayer's weapon, which drew its power from God, was currently the most powerful trump card. Even if a battle with the Demon King were to occur, there would be no chance of victory. Pucci looked at Roland and thought, if they could win, the situation might change completely. Roland thought the Archbishop's plan would most likely not work. Pucci raised his fist and said he agreed to start the war, but he had also seen the Demon King's power with his own eyes. He believes that Dixie, the only person in the world who wields the Demon King's exterminator, has enough strength to stand up to him. Therefore, Dixie himself can fight the Demon King to make everyone present realize their folly. After thinking for a moment, Yulia Dix said that this made sense. The Archbishop added that in that case, he would go first. Yuli Dix tucked the pistol into his pocket and said he would go and face the Demon King personally. He would give everyone the chance to see what the true hope of humanity was. Roland said they shouldn't create even more problems. The Demon King isn't as simple as everyone thinks. Yuli Dix added that he would personally verify this as well. He just had to wait in confinement for good news. Yuli Dix, overcome with excitement, told everyone to get ready to fight the Demon King. All gaming industry services, such as shops and trading houses, must be closed in the safe zone. It is also necessary to remove all NPCs from the safe zone. The barrier must be deactivated, although it doesn't really make much difference. Demon Fighter number 3+ must be prepared for combat. The Archbishop asked if Dix was really going to deactivate the safe zone. Dix replied that the commercial district had practically become the Demon King's home. He saw no other option. Pucci noted that in that case, it was indeed a serious step. He thought, if he could win, then everything would go exactly as he wanted. Dix told Julia that the army would go with him. Even if the Demon King couldn't be destroyed, they had to bring back the Elven Princess. It's also necessary to contact the media. A global live broadcast must be organized. Let the whole world see what the true hope of humanity should look like. Shaya was surprised to see that the store was closed. Maybe it's a holiday today? The young man saw that the townspeople were trying to leave the city as quickly as possible, fearing it would be too late later. Shaya guessed that if it really was a holiday today, then people probably wanted to go on a trip. One of the passers-by asked the protagonist what he was doing. After all, the safe zone had stopped working, so they had to get out of there right away. Shaya was surprised. The young man was surprised. Even the system's divine artifacts take a break? The game world really does have some great perks. Shaya saw an announcement stating that real estate prices in the commercial district had dropped significantly. The young man was surprised. Shaya finally realized the gravity of the situation. Behind the protagonist appeared Yuli Dix, accompanied by an army. Dix said that he had finally met this guy. Shaya was surprised. Why did he need an army? The elven princess peeked out from her pocket. The girl was surprised. Had she fallen asleep again? But what was going on here? The princess saw armed men who looked aggressive. The princess thought, could it be that demons and humans are fighting over her again? A tragedy from 1,000 years ago might be about to repeat itself. The girl found this very sad. The elf thought that the Demon King was about to make his move. The humans must flee, for they cannot defeat the Demon King. The girl thought that her very existence was harmful to the country and its people. Was she truly unworthy of ordinary happiness? Shaya suddenly turned and began to run. The military commander asked Mr. Dix if they should pursue the Demon King. The leader replied that they should wait. Dix suggested that this might be some kind of trick. While running away, our hero tripped and fell. The young man had suffered an embarrassment. The military commander asked what to do now. Julia Dix replied that this was even more suspicious. Shaya found himself bound and very frightened. He didn't understand why he had been taken prisoner. Shaya was under the watchful eye of armed soldiers. The commander said he hadn't expected things to be so simple. Yuli Dix remarked that he was shocked as well. Dix asked the commander if they had found the elf or the Stone of Wisdom. The soldier replied that they were afraid to search him, even though the Demon King was tied up. The elven princess watched the events unfold from behind cover. The elf couldn't understand why the Demon King wasn't fighting back. After all, he possessed invincible power. The elf activated the elf's passive skill, Eye of True Vision. What does the Demon King actually want to do? Yuli Dix gathered his courage and addressed the Demon King. He demanded that the young man hand over the elf. Shai was surprised. Could it be that the target of this attack was the elf? Our hero asked how much this man was willing to pay for the elf in that case. Everyone present was surprised. Could the Demon King really be willing to sell the elf? The elven princess was extremely upset. So did the Demon King want to sell her? Yulia Dix couldn't believe his ears. The Demon King wanted to sell the elf to him. What was really going on here? What else was the Demon King up to? Shaya realized that this man, who had arrived accompanied by an army, needed a puppet. If he had known this earlier, he certainly wouldn't have been so frightened. Yulia Dix thought it was impossible. It was suspicious. There was some kind of catch here. The elven princess is a priceless treasure, a powerful force capable of upsetting the balance. How could she simply be sold? Whether it was a pretense after her capture or a staged deal, a fake would always remain a fake. Dix thought that, unlike Roland, the Demon King would never manipulate them. He wouldn't pay a single coin. Shaya was surprised. Did this man really want to profit for free? Shaya asked directly, does this man want the elven doll? The military commander couldn't help but ponder this. Shaya asked loudly if they were willing to pay for the doll. Everyone heard this question, even those watching the events unfold via the installed surveillance cameras. The capture was being broadcast in various locations throughout the city, so everyone heard the question. The military commander mentally calculated his available funds and thought he could offer a price of about 1,200 gold coins. Shayed asked loudly, who can offer a higher price? Julia Dix was surprised by what was happening. Dix was indignant. Did this guy really think this was an auction? Some of the military officers began to offer new amounts, thereby driving up the bids. Dix was outraged. What are they doing here? The elven princess was horrified, for the bidding had indeed begun. It was strange, but in just a moment, the Demon King dispelled all the soldiers' hostility. The princess thought, maybe all of this was part of the Demon King's plan. The prices kept rising and had already reached 3,000. Jaya thought that the ever-rising price was the sweetest music in the world. The protagonist shouted that he wanted a higher price. The military commander reported to Mr. Dix that people online had also begun participating in the auction. The commander explained that a global live stream had been organized, and people from all over the world were watching the auction. Julia told Dix that this was simply ridiculous. How could novice players possibly know the price of an elven princess? The commander explained that they didn't know. They just said, "The main thing is that she looks good." Dix was surprised. Where did they get the money to participate in the auction? The commander replied that novice players engage in crowdfunding. An outcast of her era who had slept for 1,000 years, the elven princess didn't know what crowdfunding was. Crowdfunding is an investment model in which investors put money into a company's projects and receive a certain share and ownership rights. At that moment, all the money in the world was gathering here. Dix shouted for the live broadcast to be shut down immediately, right now. The princess thought that the Demon King had not only shattered the enemy's hostility and morale, but had also united all the people of the world. This Demon King is truly unlike any other. Reselling rare items from the souvenir shop is a profitable business. You can also host live streams to sell merchandise. The protagonist never imagined such a lucrative business existed. The young man decided he should ask Haojan to bring something else. Then he could get rich. At that moment, the group leader, Qin Haojan, had the feeling that the Demon King was thinking about him. The first team of people was currently carrying out a mission, escorting a mechanical chicken. After completing the mission, they would receive a lot of experience points. The elven princess approached Xia Ye and asked him a question. With tears in her eyes, the girl asked, "Does the gentleman really want to sell me?" Xia Ye replied that he simply wanted to survive. Julia Dix repeated that she wouldn't pay a single coin. Xia Ye explained to the girl that if he didn't hand her over, they wouldn't resort to violence to rob him. The princess asked why, in that case, the young man wouldn't start resisting. Xia Ye replied that violence only begets even more excessive violence. The soldiers began kicking the young man. The elven princess was struck by these words. A single phrase explained the reason why the world was mired in war. The princess thought that the Demon King wanted to put an end to the tragedy of endless millennia-long wars with his own hands. The girl decided, even though he is the Demon King, he possesses mercy. That is true greatness. The elf said that perhaps the Lord really could create a world without bloodshed. The princess decided that for the sake of such a world, she was willing to make a sacrifice. The young man thought that this doll was quite cute. Suddenly, someone offered 5,000 gold pieces. The bids continued to rise. Xia Ye was no longer listening to the princess. He was engrossed in the bidding for her sale. Julia Dix, who had offered 5,400 gold coins, was declared the winner of the auction. However, the winner was completely dissatisfied. Dix realized that in the end, he had participated in the auction after all. To keep the wisdom of the elves in his grasp and to stand against the whole world by his own strength, he had squandered his family's fortune. However, this made him a national hero. Dix thought that even though he had managed to get the elf this way, now the council and the whole world would be in his hands. However, for some reason, the transaction failed. It turned out that the elven princess was bound to Xia Ye's soul and could not be sold. The elven princess remained with the protagonist. The princess said that the contract was sealed and that from that moment on, Xia Ye would be her master. The protagonist apologized and remarked that he hadn't known this, hadn't known it would turn out this way. Dix was extremely indignant. How dare this guy joke like that? He knew the Demon King couldn't be trusted. Xia Ye repeated that he really hadn't known that. The young man remarked that the princess could have explained everything as well. The girl explained, "Once the rice is cooked and the dish is ready, nothing can be changed. You just have to accept it and stop fantasizing." The princess added that, to be honest, old men like this customer weren't her type at all. Xia Ye wanted the princess to explain it differently. Julia Dix pulled a gun from his pocket, pointed it at the protagonist, and said he was tired of all this. Dix added that if this guy had anything to say, he should do it right now, because this was his last chance. Bobao appeared in front of the massive turbojet weapon. The NPC assistant said the order had been received, and the 3+ demon fighter was ready for launch. The players in the blast zone were taken aback. Could they really be the target? They had to get out of there immediately. The NPC assistant said it was already too late and reached for the launch button. However, Bobao, who had somehow ended up inside the demon exterminator, stopped him. The cat said that strange objects shouldn't be aimed at other people's homes. It could end badly, but the power-up signal sounded. That meant activation had begun. The demon exterminator was put into execution mode, and a powerful beam was directed at the ground. However, before reaching the ground, the beam stopped and it became clear that it was returning. It looked like an anomaly. The NPC assistant didn't understand how this was possible, but the disaster had been averted. Bao activated the power of the Creator, the most powerful and supreme force in the world. Bao exhaled, and with that, his mission was complete. The cat said it was quite tasty, a bit like the cat food his owner gives him. Bao noted that these powers could destroy an entire city, but one must not target his owner's house. That would be very rude. The NPC assistant was surprised. What kind of creature is he really? Why does he have creator-level abilities? Bao said it would be better to ask what kind of creature his owner was, because he was just a little cat that his owner had raised to protect the house. An explosion occurred in the sky above the city. The players were once again baffled. However, it turned out not to be an explosion, but a real fireworks display. After the explosion, the NPC helpers began scattering in all directions. Bao floated smoothly down to the ground, landing on the fragments of the destroyed weapon. Bao saw Roland imprisoned in a cubic cell. Bao, using the strength he had left, destroyed the cube and freed the priest. Roland wasn't opposed to this, but he was surprised. Why did the cat do that? The players saw the shards of the falling demonic weapon and thought they might be killed by them. Suddenly, Lord Roland, the savior of the world, appeared. He shone with fiery colors. Roland began to smash all the falling steel with his battle sword. The townspeople shouted that Lord Roland, as expected, had saved them and the city from destruction and ruin. The townspeople surrounded the priest and told him that he was their hope. Without him, they would have perished. Roland smiled and modestly said that he had done nothing. The townspeople asked Lord Roland to guide them on the path of truth. The priest looked back and saw a cat sitting nearby. Bao noticed that the back scratcher Roland had given him last time was quite comfortable. He repaid him for it. Julia Dix was still threatening the protagonist. He said that the Demon King would now feel the power of the third model Demon Slayer. A shot was fired and a stream of liquid hit the young man in the face. Dix was surprised. Why did this weapon look like a small water gun? There were fireworks overhead, and Dix still didn't understand what was going on. Dix looked up and realized the fireworks were the 3+ demon exterminator. Sayaya walked up to his opponent and patted him on the shoulder. Dix had time to get scared. The young man said that this man couldn't use a water gun to kill people just because the deal fell through. He wasn't a child after all. Our hero was scared, but now he was a little angry. Why gather so many people just to shoot a water gun? Jaya didn't think there would be a celebratory fireworks display today. Jaya told his opponent that he had a good temperament, but that this guy had better not joke like that again. Seeing that he wasn't actually a bad person, the young man decided to remind him that he could get beaten up for something like that. Julia Dix realized everything and knelt before the protagonist. He said he understood everything now. Babylon and Belial watched the scene unfold from the roof of a neighboring building. Babylon noted that she herself had said the great Demon King did not need their help. Belial noted that she was already ready to fight for the Demon King. Babylon added that the great Demon King had proven to be flawless. The demonesses thought that this was truly too incredible. Shaya sensed something, looked back, but the demoness on the roof of the house had already vanished. The elven princess asked the young man, "Is there something there?" The young man replied that it had just seemed that way to him, but if the deal had fallen through, then he was going home. The princess asked if she would go with the young man. The young man replied that now that she was bound to him, he could do nothing to stop her. So the two of them would go home together. However, he didn't keep freeloaders around. "Is there anything in her body that can be grown every day and sold?" he asked. The princess said she didn't have that ability. Shaya asked if she could handle household chores in that case. As he walked away, the young man continued to watch the fireworks and thought, "When will the festivities end here?" The soldiers watched the young man leave. The protagonist added, "Otherwise, the safe zone will cease to be safe. The house will lose its value, and they will become poor." He told Julia Dixie that he could no longer take risks and therefore asked the military for forgiveness. The result of this live stream was that Elf was purchased by Julia Dixie. The mysterious seller received a significant amount of money. All of this was speculation by the players watching the live stream. The actual result, however, was that the 3+ demon fighter had been damaged. The NPC assistant informed the Archbishop that the wreckage had been found. Pucci ordered it to be transported back. The time had come to inform God of the situation they were facing. In reality, the so-called advisor to Julia, who had won the auction, did not receive the Elven Princess. As the primary culprit, he was taken back to the Heavenly City to await trial. The humans' first attack on the Demon King ended in failure. The Demon King celebrated a triumphant victory. Shaya was surprised that housing prices hadn't risen. Babylon thought there was nothing they could do about it. After the riots, many people had fled. Belial thought the safe zone had now become the Demon King's territory. Besides the protagonist, there was another person who considered himself unlucky. It was the priest Roland. He couldn't come to terms with the fact that he had actually been saved by the Demon King's cat. Roland couldn't help but recall the scene when the cat had saved him. The young man tried to snap out of it, shut out those thoughts, and return to reality. A subordinate of the Demon King, one of the world's most evil enemies. What else had he done? The people of this region had survived only thanks to the cat. Perhaps in reality, this cat is a kind and loyal pet. The more Roland thought about it, the more absurd it seemed to him. The priest considered himself the hope of humanity, the one who leads people and players to destroy demons. He shouldn't be thrown off balance by some cat. The NPC assistant informed the priest that there was a package for him. Roland admitted that he had been careless and had nearly fallen under the enemy's spell. He must not let his guard down for a single moment while fighting demons. The package had been sent from a safe zone. Shaya wrote in the letter that Roland was the first person he had ever met and the one who had extended a helping hand to him. The package contained a kitten. Shaya expressed his hope that Roland would like the gift. Roland thought that was very sweet. The young man was deeply moved. His face broke out in a sweat, and he blushed with embarrassment. How can I handle this, he thought. Shaya assumed that Roland had already received the express delivery from him. The young man said he had hung the towel on the railing. The elf princess was in the bathroom on the other side of the door. She thanked the young man. The elven princess thought that this Demon King was actually very gentle and caring. The princess sensed the Demon King's immense power and nobility. However, the prophecy stated that humanity would be the ultimate victor. That seemed unthinkable. Rather than letting the world fall into the hands of people like Roland, Haljan, and Dix who were not good, it would be better to let the Demon King rule the world. The elven princess thought that the Demon King might indeed be able to change the future and put an end to the war. The princess decided to use the wisdom of the elves and her own to help the Demon King achieve all of this. Their races could be united through a child for the sake of peace and love. The girl decided to ask Mr. Chalier after all, before taking any action. Someone appeared behind the princess and said she was new. It was Belial. The demoness advised her not to do anything unnecessary. Babylon added that there were certain rules and she shouldn't blame them for not explaining them. The princess thought this must be one of Lord Shaya's subordinates. Looking closer, the princess saw that this demon was an S-class with a level exceeding 3 digits. The elf didn't understand what was happening. Unlike the Demon King, they radiated a very dangerous aura. Could it be that they were going to disobey the Demon King's will and deprive her of her elven heritage, the Stone of Wisdom? The princess decided she would help the Demon King. She should have thought of this sooner. Even though the Demon King is kind, all his subordinates are bloodthirsty demons. How could they not envy the power of her people? The princess pondered what to do. If a battle began, what would the Demon King think? Beliar told the elf not to overthink things. If their master allows her to skip household chores or not cut horns for sale, then she is the main girl in the house. She shouldn't take herself too seriously. Beliar added that, while following her master, she had eaten rotten apples and been destroyed by hateful people. Returning to the master wasn't easy. Babylon added, no matter how noble they are, they have to act like little pets and pretend to be friendly toward these selfish and ugly people. Beliar asked if the elf knew how much they paid the master. It's all extremely difficult, she added. The demonesses were surprised. Why did the elf look so happy? The princess said she understood everything. She had thought it would be simple, but the path of the world chosen by the Demon King was extremely difficult. One must be friendly but not humiliate oneself. You have to be polite but not abandon your people. This game is so dangerous that even a 3-digit level demon has to give it their all. The princess decided she had been reckless before. All this was thanks to the immense power and wisdom displayed by the demons. She decided to postpone the matter of having a child for later. The demonesses were surprised. Why was the elf silent? The princess didn't even look at them. Babylon said that the elf was looking down on them, and now they would pay for it. Beliar screamed that now the elf would see the difference in power between them. The enraged demoness swung her arm to strike. Unexpectedly, the elven princess bowed and said that she didn't know everything yet, so she would have to ask her 2 older sisters for advice. Beliar was surprised. How had the elf addressed her? As an older sister, really? Babylon had also never before heard herself called a sister. Beliar calmed down and asked her younger sister what she should teach her. The girl confessed that she had once been an elf princess, but she knew that the kingdom had already fallen and her entire people had perished. She noticed that she had woken up alone in a strange setting. Although she had decided to serve Lord Xiaoye, she didn't know where to start. She knew nothing about household duties or the rules of local etiquette. The princess asked the 2 sisters to teach her what to do. Beliar said that the elf was such a poor thing, and only they could help her. Babylon agreed. Babylon added that from now on, if the princess ran into any difficulties, she would support her. Babylon noted that her special ability is transformation. She especially likes turning into something big, hard, and powerful. Belial said that she is crowned as the first of the 7 heavenly kings. Her special ability is foresight. She is also the only one of the 7 demons who has heard the prophecy. The one guarding the house from the outside is the future Lord of Demons. He is connected to the Demon King and also destroyed the Demon Exterminator 3+. Belial noted that, on the Demon King's orders, they are disguised as low-level pets. Babylon added that they must infiltrate deep into the human race and destroy it from within. This is the Demon King's plan. Babylon added that the princess only needs to play the role assigned by the Demon King well. For other matters, she should act according to the situation. There's no need to worry. They receive 3 cookies every day. The Demon King has never treated them badly. The princess said that everything was clear to her now. Master Xiaya called her a puppet. The princess thanked her sisters for their guidance. The girls shook hands and agreed to be sisters from that moment on. They would work together for the sake of the master's lofty ambitions and build a world without war. The demonesses believed they would work toward the master's lofty ambitions and completely destroy humanity for the sake of demon rule. Bao Bao, perched on a tree branch, watched the idyllic scene of the 3 sisters. The cat understood that he was the master's favorite. The elf princess decided to recall how the maid had served her in the past. Now everything in the protagonist's house was clean and freshly laundered. The elf princess also cooked constantly, so there was always fresh food on the table. The protagonist's bed was always fresh and neatly made. Upon returning home, the young man saw that 3rd-level plants were growing on the doorstep. The elf princess, Ciel, had obtained the B-rank title, Feudal Remnants. Shaya was very pleased with this. Everything was going as well as possible. The Elf King had indeed gathered his forces for battle. Files had been prepared on all the familiars. This was the currently known information about the creatures under the Demon King's command. The NPC assistant was studying each file. One of the NPC staff members noticed that there was a cute little cat among the familiars. A colleague added that they needed to maintain a serious tone. This wasn't a topic to joke about. The NPC reminded them that Belial appeared first and has the most important role. She is still in human form and possesses great potential, even more so than Bao Bao. The new elven princess shouldn't be underestimated either. After her arrival, the Demon King was clearly in a much better mood. That's probably why he isn't planning to destroy the world just yet. However, there is one thing that is hard to understand. After the elf girl's arrival, even the mutants' activity has increased. The elf's level is only in the double digits, while the Demon King's is in the 4 digits. Mr. Roland believes that by controlling her, he will be able to defeat the Demon King. Apparently, the power of the elves is capable of breaking the balance. However, this is already a secret they cannot touch. The power of the elves compels all creatures to submit to it. Even the mutants have sensed this. The NPC noted that it doesn't matter. They just need to do their job well, which is to keep an eye on the Demon King even when he goes to the supermarket. At the supermarket, the protagonist paid attention to discounts and bulk prices. After Ciel's arrival, cookie consumption increased, so it's necessary to buy more flour for baking. The elf princess said she would get used to this kind of food and would always eat cookies. Shaya repeatedly watched Ciel eat cookies by herself. The elf princess seemed quiet, helpless, and lonely. This time Ciel asked, "Are they really not going to buy any flour?" Shaya suggested they go shopping together for other essentials. Shaya bought 2 cat beds. A new down comforter was also purchased. This time the protagonist bought a new bed. The young man told his companion that he would go to the register and pay for the purchases. The princess analyzed the purchases they had made. Why did they need 2 cat beds? Meanwhile, back at home, the demonesses were combing the fur from Bao Bao's body. The demons grew wary. They were simultaneously struck by some unknown premonition. After paying the bill and picking up the purchases, the protagonist said they were going home. As he left the store, the young man witnessed an unpleasant scene. A young man was taking something from an old woman. The young man took the bag of money and said the old woman didn't need it. The woman lost her balance and fell. One of the thugs said it was time for them to leave. The groceries fell out of the woman's bag. Some of them were damaged. Shaya approached the woman and asked if she was okay. The old woman said that it was her eldest son and that this wasn't the first time he had done something like this. Shaya asked if he had taken her money. The woman explained that her son had said he needed the money to improve his fighting power, otherwise he wouldn't be able to survive. There was nothing she could do about it. The woman was a seamstress who made a small profit by making bags out of linen fabric. Every time her son took money from her for food and used violence, it frightened her. The events returned home in a state of turmoil. Xiao Bai tried to protect her, and her son had soiled him. The dog was covered in chili sauce and had a corresponding color. The young man witnessed the woman's daily task, cleaning Xiao Bai. In other words, the old woman has to face this over and over again every day. The woman noticed that her dog was kind, which is why he always wanted to protect her. However, he was too weak. Shaya took on the daily task. The elf princess told the young man to leave it to her. She would clean him up and get him in order. Shaya said he didn't mind. The girl said she would be back soon. The woman thought that when she was younger, she used to play with her husband like that too. It was her husband who called her mistress. Shaya thought the woman had misunderstood everything. The old woman asked, "Is that girl an elf?" The answer was yes. The protagonist asked how the old woman had figured it out. The woman replied that everyone had seen the live stream about the sale of the elf girl. Although no one knows for sure who this young man really is, everyone recognizes him. He's now an internet celebrity. The woman added that she hadn't expected the young man to take such a precious elf with him. The old woman added that she was willing to tell the young man something, for she could see his kind heart in pure gaze. This creature is being hunted by countless people. Just a moment of carelessness, and someone will come and take her away. The elven princess had been captured by a Class A desert-mutated wolf who served Lord Fenrir. He had been ordered to find the elf. The desert wolf said it took no effort at all. Rumors had it that security in this place was useless, and that was indeed the case. The desert wolf added that the wisdom of the elves surpasses that of ordinary humans. However, Lord Fenrir is different from ordinary mutants. He is called a king, and his awakened talent is unprecedented. In time, he may become a being who will change demons and humans alike and rise to the top of the world. Fenrir said he needed the elven princess. The desert wolf added that this was precisely why he had been ordered to come. Thanks to the strength and wisdom of the elves, the growth of their race will be unstoppable. The princess said that if the desert wolf had been watching the live broadcast, he must know that she already has a master. The wolf was surprised. Was the elf referring to a weak, short-statured chick or an old man with a bitter expression? Princess CL said she was giving this rude and ignorant dog a chance to take back his words, and then he would not be punished. The desert wolf was outraged. Did the elf really think she could boss him around? She looked displeased, but she wouldn't be able to break free from his bonds. The desert wolf added that they could dig an underground passage and make their way here. He has a keen sense of smell, so he can sense everything. The desert wolf said that this girl's level is actually very low. That's why she won't be able to escape. After hearing his grandmother's story, Shaya thought that the elven princess was indeed very valuable. She must be protected. The young man looked at the bathroom door and realized the elf girl hadn't come out in a long time. He decided it wouldn't hurt to see what had happened in there, but he couldn't go into the women's restroom. Shaya decided to wait a little longer. The desert wolf continued to hold the girl's hand and told her she must follow him. Once she witnessed Fenrir's power, she wouldn't be able to leave. Xiaobai suddenly pounced on the desert wolf and bit his paw. The desert wolf was outraged. How dare this little dog treat him this way? Zeal thought that Xiaobai had decided to protect her. Fenrir grabbed Xiaobai by the head and threatened to punish him. Fenrir threw the dog aside and told the girl that if she didn't want to suffer unnecessary pain, she should simply follow him obediently. First offense: arrogant comments regarding the Demon King's words, actions, and appearance. Second offense: although the kingdom is destroyed, she is still the elven princess. Disregarding her will is also a sign of disrespect. The wolf was surprised. What is she talking about? The princess said, 1,000 years ago, to ensure no one could exploit this power, I decided to seal myself away. But does the desert wolf know that this elven power is capable of upsetting the balance of the world? Under the influence of magical forces, Xiaobai began to come to after the desert wolf's attack. He jumped to his feet and barked loudly. The desert wolf was surprised. Is this dog still alive? Xiaobai was very small, but he showed remarkable bravery. He bravely began to growl at the desert wolf. The beast wondered, had the princess resurrected him, or was this a healing? The desert dog was surprised, but his level had become the same as the wolf's. Could the power of the elves really do this? Everyone wondered. No wonder so many people want to get their hands on the princess. Xiaobai pushed off and leaped high into the air, intending to attack the desert wolf. The wolf was indeed attacked. However, he believed that his combat experience and size gave him an absolute advantage. It turned out that size and experience didn't matter. Xiaobai won a decisive victory by biting the wolf's head off. The NPC assistant witnessed the explosion and the desert wolf's destruction. What could this mean, he wondered. The NPC staff decided to check what had happened at the supermarket. Perhaps it was somehow connected to the Demon King. The young people headed to the supermarket to protect the Demon King and prevent a conflict with humans. On the fourth floor, a huge hole had formed in the shopping center's building after the explosion. Through the hole, they could see that someone was inside. That someone turned out to be an elf. The NPC employees were surprised. Where did she come from? Ciel saw Xiaobai continuing to devour the destroyed monster. The girl thought that was very bad. The dog was covered in blood again. His body was covered in it. She'd have to wash him all over again. Ciel decided that the master must not find out that she couldn't even handle such a simple task. The princess saw the NPCs and thought they were people from the Sky City who had come to fight the mutant. But they had arrived too late. The incident was already over. Ciel believed that while they were still stirring up trouble everywhere, they couldn't even protect their own territory. This world truly needed to be saved by the Demon King. Meanwhile, the Demon King continued to wait for the elf princess outside the restroom. The young man thought that quite a bit of time had passed, and perhaps he should knock on the door and ask. Xia heard loud noises and realized something was wrong. The girls nearby decided they had seen this young man somewhere before, perhaps in news reports about strange events. Why is he standing by the entrance to the women's restroom, they wondered. The protagonist thought he had been misunderstood even before he had done anything. Cell, standing near the hole in the wall, continued to watch the NPC staff. The girl holding the dog in her arms jumped through the hole and landed in front of the young people. The young people noted that the elf was very beautiful. The girl said, "If you came here for the mutant, you're too late." The young people were indignant and asked if the Demon King was unharmed and if he was angry. The elven princess was surprised. Do the NPCs also call him Sir? Could it be that they are comrades hoping that Sir will build a new world? Ciel recalled the words of the sisters Belial and Babylon, who had said that the Demon King would destroy them from within. Ciel decided that now she understood everything clearly. These NPCs had come here solely to protect the Demon King. Even though they were weak, they already possessed the resolve and willingness to die for him. The elf princess thought that the great Demon King's reputation was greater than she had imagined. It was truly astonishing. But even so, the mutants had infiltrated the safe zone. We can't let that happen again. Ciel noted that these people's duty was to protect the civilians living here. The princess added that these officers must be capable of protecting people, even if they are weak. Do they really want to rely solely on luck every time? The girl was in a good mood because she had solved the problem and no one had been hurt. The NPCs decided that the elf had warned them. This must never happen again. The mutants must not appear here again. Their safety depends entirely on them. If they don't want to die, they must make an effort. The young people dropped to their knees and bowed their heads. They apologized and promised to do their best. Ciel was surprised. Did they really kneel and bow to me? So they truly love the Demon King? The princess said, "If you understand everything, stand up. But there's one more thing." The girl asked the young men to take care of the dog. Xiaobai was cleaned up, and the princess emerged from the ladies' restroom. Xia had finally waited for her. The protagonist peeked inside and saw the wrecked restroom. 2 NPCs were cleaning up the mess. Xia was surprised. What happened here? Did a pipe burst? The princess replied that a lot of water had been wasted. They had to wash Xiaobai twice. The protagonist thanked the young people for their selfless work. The staff replied that it was their duty. Xia remarked that if he had known this would happen, he would have come to help. Ciel should warn him if it happens again. The hero returned the clean Xiaobai to the old woman and said the mission was complete. The old woman noted that now even the dog's gaze had grown wiser. The old woman took out an object and gave it to the young man as a token of gratitude. Xia asked what it was. It turned out that once opened, it increased the likelihood of mastering production skills. It was a lottery ticket. The old woman said that everything depended on the young man's luck. Xia replied that this was very bad because he had always been unlucky. Our hero opened the ticket and received an alchemical potion of primary purification. The young man said it was a useless skill. The princess remarked that the young man wasn't doing this for the reward. The greatest reward for completing tasks is the joy of helping others. The young man added that he was very happy today. He suggested to the princess that they go shopping together again next time. The mall management decided it would be best if the young man never came here again. Under the protection of the great Demon King and his servants in the safe zone, everything was calm today. In the evening, the old woman got ready for bed and said that tomorrow would be just another routine day. The woman added that although it was upsetting That was the nature of their work as low-level NPCs. The woman felt sorry that she couldn't protect Xiaobai and was forcing him to endure unpleasant things every day. Suddenly, the door to the room swung open. The woman's eldest son appeared in the doorway. He asked if she had made any money today. The guy said he wanted to go out with his friends and have a drink. He needed some money. Xiaobai stood in the way, determined not to let the man into the room. The young man was surprised. Could it be that this dog had come over on its own? It really was a stupid dog that couldn't learn its lesson. Xiaobai barked and lunged at the offender. Archbishop Pucci, relieving himself, was scrolling through his newsfeed at the same time. He received information that a mutant had appeared in the safe zone. An assistant, standing outside the door, reported that the artificial checkpoint had been reinforced to ensure that even if the steal failed, the mutants would not be able to get inside. However, this type of mutant had appeared near the Demon King, enraging him and triggering the end of the world. Under the Demon King's influence, the mutants evolved from plants and animals. They cannot shed their animal nature and act primarily on instinct, but there are always limits to their power. Pucci thought that the mutated species could dig tunnels so far and appear right next to the Demon King. It was as if they possessed advanced intelligence. This couldn't be a coincidence. The Archbishop asked where Roland was now. The assistant reported that the priest had taken leave. Pucci thought that what had happened had affected Roland too much. At the moment, he couldn't help in any way. The Archbishop finished his business, opened the door, and told his assistant to follow him. The young man asked what they would do now. Pucci declared that he wanted to meet the god who created this world, Lord Moshe. The Heavenly City, an artifact of the Demon Slayer, just like Bert Steel, is a system-level weapon given by Lord Moshe to fight demons. The Archbishop was shown the destruction, which was quite impressive. Pucci said, "Yulia has been punished. What should we do next?" The Demon King possesses overwhelming power. Defeating him is simply impossible. The priest replied that there was no need to worry. Archbishop Haifus added that they must have faith. In that case, they would prevail. The Archbishop expressed his hope to God Moshe that he would never deceive them. Haifus added that, no matter what, they must first report the destruction of the 3+ demon fighter to Lord Moshe. The Archbishop asked God to guide them on the path of truth. 3 days passed in unceasing pleas. God did not respond. Pucci approached Archbishop Haifus. Haifus was perplexed. Why had there been no reaction? After all, he had tried so hard. Pucci suggested that the Demon King's power was so great that it could even affect God Moshe. The Almighty came to his senses and said that he had accidentally fallen asleep. Moshe looked at the screen and saw that he had many missed messages. Moshe responded immediately. The archbishops noticed this, and Haifus announced that God had appeared to them with an answer. It turned out that no one had abandoned them. The connection was likely unstable at the moment. Moshe said that his people were suffering at the moment. He hadn't anticipated that an enemy might appear whom even the demon-slaying artifact number 3 would be unable to defeat. Haifus remarked that the merciful Lord truly knows everything. Of course, he always pays attention to those under his care. It's very touching. Moshe replied that this doesn't mean he's constantly paying attention to them. It's just that the debris is right behind their backs. You can see that at a glance. The archbishop noted that the worlds were merging and players were arriving. However, something unexpected happened. All of this was recorded and documented. The Lord can review it. Moshe said that he could see the report on the battle with the demons. It was truly fascinating. How heroically they fought the demons. After reviewing the information, Moshe reminded them that he had asked to destroy the Demon King, not to try to serve him. Haifus remarked that if they were to fight with their current forces, they would simply lose. The Lord had warned that the Demon King would be a child. However, this did not correspond to reality. Moshe asked what the archbishop meant. Could he actually see him? Haifus replied that if the Lord's prophecies had been more accurate, they wouldn't be in this situation. Moshe was surprised. Even if he had said that the Demon King was at a 4-digit level, would the archbishop really have been able to defeat him? Haifus pointed out that Roland had nearly died because of that misinformation. The Lord was surprised. Was the archbishop really accusing him? Haifus immediately began apologizing and saying that the Lord was all-knowing and all-powerful, and that he was always right. Moshe admitted that the archbishops had grounds to blame him. However, the Demon King wasn't supposed to be that strong from the start. Moshe added that even the artifact he had created had been so easily destroyed. To a certain extent, this could be considered a surprise. In this case, there were only 2 ways to counter him: wait until the players grew stronger, or intervene personally. Moshe said that now is not the time for arguments. He's just pretending to be tough, so he suggests having a casual chat. The image of Lord Moshe in the temple began to glow and radiate energy. Haifa said that they were witnessing the power of creation. Pucci noted that the Lord had performed yet another miracle. System artifact number 3 had been restored, and it happened in an instant. Moshe said that Yulia was already history. Humanity needed a new fighting force to protect the players and ensure their growth. Moshe declared that the new owner of the Demon Slayer, number 3, had been chosen. Pucci must take up arms and continue to fight for humanity. Archbishop Pucci was extremely surprised. Could he really have been declared the new owner? Moshe added that he saw the Archbishop's ambition and courage to rise to the top. Pucci objected, saying he had been misunderstood. Pucci remarked that even if the number 3 system artifact were working again, he feared he would not be able to win. Moshe reassured the Archbishop. If he died in battle, he would surely go to heaven. Hafiz thought that this was a great blessing since Pucci had been given a chance to go to heaven. One could only envy that. Pucci asked if Hafiz wanted to take that weapon. His colleague refused. Moshe said there was no need to worry. Humanity had always defeated every race in this world, never once suffering defeat. This time would be no exception. Pucci remarked that he was praying with all his heart to live to see that day. Moshe thought everything was fine. The main thing was to ensure the growth of both Roland and the players going forward. So there was nothing to worry about. Whether it was talent or faith, this child was a rare gem. Chosen as the hope of humanity, he has shown a tenacity and skill that have amazed even the Lord. No matter how strong the enemy is, he will never give up. There is always a way to win. If it's him, no matter how terrifying the Demon King is, he will definitely fight until the very end. After all, he is the hope of humanity, a hope that will never be lost, no matter what. Moshe said that they must call Roland's father back. Hafiz noted that he was holding the line on the front lines. Has the situation really reached such a critical stage? Moshe remarked that they cannot allow the hope of humanity to fall. An aide brought a message to Lord Lee on the battlefield. Something important had happened, and he was being asked to return to Heavenly City immediately. The warrior said that the accursed demon was lucky. He had to obey the order. However, when he returned and retrieved the family treasure, they'd better prepare to be completely wiped out. It would all be finished with a single blow. Dali was one of the 12 advisors, the highest-ranking beings in Heavenly City. Unlike the other council members, his position was hereditary. Since the founding of Heavenly City, the Lee family had been at the forefront of the fight against demons. The current head of the family, Dali, was an unparalleled god of war. With the number 1 demon-slaying artifact, he had fought 49 battles against the demon army without a single defeat. The demons perished tragically, their bodies piling up in mountains. Because of his extremely brutal methods and absolute cold-bloodedness, he is called the Iron-Blooded Demon Slayer. Dali returned to the estate on his motorcycle and asked why he had been summoned back. The assistant said it was about Master Roland. Dali said that Roland was his only son. As Lee's heir, he had come to Earth to guide the players. Dali thought that even though he was called an iron-blooded killer on the battlefield, as a father, he had never missed a moment of his son's growth. He knew him well. He was the hardest-working and most outstanding person in Heavenly City. He is the hope of humanity, chosen by God. He is the one destined to lead everyone to ultimate victory. Dali thought that his son had never let him down and was a proud successor. Dali asked his assistant to tell him everything in more detail. After all, Roland had come to Earth and achieved excellent results. Dali looked at the empty wall and asked where the treasures passed down from generation to generation in the Lee family were. The assistant told Lord Dali what had happened to Lord Roland in the rear, while his father was fighting demons on the front lines. Dali remarked, so his son had given the Demon King everything he could. He had fought monsters a level higher than his own in order to find an elf for the demon to keep as a pet. Dali tried to calm down and not panic. After all, these were just minor incidents. On the battlefield, he was known as Iron Blood. He never rushed, even when facing 3,000 enemy troops alone. Dali believed he should look at everything from his son's perspective and think it through carefully. There must be a reason why Roland acted that way. Maybe he lost everything, was broke, so he sold everything off. The assistant noted that Roland had warned him that he had told his father about this. Dali admitted that his son had told him he needed the dragon's claw, but hadn't said he was selling off the family. The iron-blooded warrior tried to think about it calmly. Maybe the pressure from the mission to save humanity was too much? If not, he'd have to find his son a psychiatrist. Dali was considering psychiatrists with solid experience. Roland told his father that he was sorry to disappoint him, but he didn't need that. Things weren't the way his father thought. Dali asked if his son knew why their family had been able to win every battle and attain the status they enjoyed today. Roland reminded him that his father had told him they believed in Lord Moshe 100%. Dali confirmed this and added that it wasn't just a slogan. His father pulled a glowing crystal in the shape of a necklace from his bosom and said that it was unlike any other relic. It was the true treasure of the Li family. It was the artifact of the #1 demon slayer, the Durandal pendant, a gift from the Lord. The more devout the bearer is to the Lord, the more his combat power can be increased. It can also be used to test the owner's loyalty to the Lord. Only by remaining faithful can he unleash its power. Father added that he has never lost a battle against demons. That is why he cannot understand what is so terrifying about them. Dali said that now he wanted to pass this artifact on to his son. Roland thought his father didn't suspect him. Dali noted that his son was still young and wisely approached this with caution. But a steadfast heart is the most powerful force. Roland thought causing his father disappointment and remaining a mystery are inevitable. After all, his father has never lost a battle against demons. No matter how terrifying the danger, he never loses heart. The #1 demon slayer. By giving him this artifact, does that mean he'll be able to fight the Demon King with its help? The young man understood his father's good intentions and resolved to rise to the challenge, striving tirelessly. After handing over the artifact, Dali wondered why had an impurity appeared in this sacred light. The artifact shouldn't be broken. There's never been a single mention of this in 1,000 years of family records. This likely means that an impurity of disloyalty has appeared in his heart. Roland told his father to hire a therapist for him. Dali said that he had noticed this as well. An object in Roland's hand glowed brightly. The young man said that Durandal's anomaly might be related to this. Dali looked at it. It was a gift from the Demon King. His father was surprised. Could this really be a Gashapon toy? Roland told his father to take a closer look. It was a system-level magical weapon. Dali was astonished. How was that possible? There were supposed to be only 13 system-level artifacts in this world, bestowed by God. The mighty artifact, the #8 Demon Hunter, Bertgan, possesses the absolute seal. It was dismantled and the Earth's safe zones were built from its components. 66 in total. The #3 source weapon, the source text cannon. The Demon Slayer #1 Durandal is capable of transforming the power of faith into real physical might. These 3 items are among the 13 system-level artifacts. But these 3 items currently cannot inflict significant harm on the Demon King. This figurine looks ordinary, but it is stronger, deeper, and even more unfathomable. Dali said it was truly magnificent. As long as they have it, they will be able to easily defeat any enemy, no matter how strong. Dali asked where his son had gotten it. Roland replied, "A gift from the Demon King." Dali was surprised. Did the Demon King really give this to him? Roland noted that there were many such artifacts in the Demon King's house. This figurine was likely created while the Demon King was practicing. Dali's heart began to race. Could there really be so many more treasures like this? Roland pointed out that even the elven red stone, which had a system level of S, had already fallen into the Demon King's hands. The father replied that he understood everything. Dali realized what his son was up against. The father didn't know the Demon King was so powerful. Roland must have suffered a lot because of him. His son said he had already recovered from the shock. He would definitely crush the Demon King with the help of the #1 Demon Slayer. Dali said that the #1 Demon Slayer wouldn't be enough. He never thought the day would come when he'd have to pass on to his son the final trump card that his family had passed down from generation to generation. Roland was surprised. Could their family really have something even more powerful? Dali replied that when facing a powerful enemy that cannot be defeated, even the Demon Slayer artifact is the last trump card. Their family hadn't used this trump card in 1,000 years. His father told his son to raise his left hand first. Now he must raise his right hand. The father was referring to raising a white flag. That is surrender. Roland said that these jokes were inappropriate. Could this really be the last trump card? It took the young man a second to realize this. Dali asked, had his son really noticed even his last trump card? Roland was worthy of being his proud heir. Dali added that the advanced version of the trump card was to fall to one's knees and bow. He saw no other way. The demonesses discussed the situation. Things were getting serious. The Demon King was nowhere to be found. Belial was dead. They couldn't even take her to Babylon. The demoness added that they were now in a desperate situation. Her companion said that they needed to send a small team to search for traces of the Demon King. The demon noted that they had only one team left. Even the demons who had been defending the base and the children had already left. If they don't find the Demon King, they'll have no choice but to die. As long as their location remains undiscovered, they can try to risk everything. The demon squad was dispatched and encountered a convoy of humans along the way. The warrior saw the demons and was surprised. Where did they come from? The demon saw the humans and was surprised, for he had traveled only 3 kilometers. Where did these humans come from? The commander of the warriors drew his sword and said they must fight bravely. The demon leader shouted that these warriors must be destroyed. So as not to anger the demon king, each group rushed into battle against their opponents. Suddenly, a powerful explosion rang out, and Fenrir, an S-rank mutant, appeared. The warriors and demons were surprised. How is this possible? Are there S-rank mutants here? Fenrir said he had come here because he had smelled food. He hadn't expected there to be so much of it. By devouring the creatures, Fenrir strengthened himself and raised his level. He said that if this continued, he would be able to devour the demons and take their place. The assistant informed Fenrir that a human convoy was escorting the transport, a large bus. Fenrir looked inside the bus and saw children. Archbishop Pucci received information that the children had gone missing outside the safe zone. The assistant explained that after the incident with the demon fighter number 3, evacuation plans had been drawn up. All the children had been sent far away from the safe zone to protect them from the Demon King, but contact had been lost. According to reports, a battle had taken place at the scene, and traces of demons and mutants were also found there. Pucci was surprised. Wasn't there an order to keep an eye on the Demon King? What's the latest? The assistant reported that, according to the report, the Demon King had left his home early in the morning and headed toward the center of the safe zone. At the moment, the Demon King is helping an old woman cross the street. Earlier, the Demon King had fed a stray cat. Before that, he pointed out a pervert on the bus who had been given the title of kind and righteous man. The Demon King also set up a stall in the square at the center of the safe zone. He didn't sell anything, but spent 3 hours talking with the elderly. We have just received word that the Demon King has returned home and fallen asleep. Archbishop Pucci concluded that this is a sinister and cunning demon who has deeply concealed his evil. What does he intend to do? Pucci ordered an investigation. Is there a connection between the Demon King and the disappearance of the children? The investigation must also continue. The Archbishop suspected that the NPC's plan was the cause of the children's disappearance. If the rumor spreads, the reputation of the Heavenly City will surely suffer. The children must be found as quickly as possible. It was time for the hope of humanity to regain his strength. The Archbishop tried to contact Roland, but the number he dialed was temporarily unavailable. Dali, holding a bag in his hand, said that the choice had taken a long time, but in the end he had chosen a gift for his meeting with the Demon King. Roland looked at his father in surprise. The young man thought that his father, whom he had been proud of since childhood, had actually turned out to be unscrupulous. The Durandal pendant, 99% pure, the owner's loyalty must be verified. Roland told his father that their kindness toward the Demon King was only temporary. Their ultimate goal was to defeat him. His father needed to remember that. Dali replied that this was obvious, but why bring it up on the doorstep of a stranger's house, and so loudly? Roland calmed down and said he was just reminding him one more time, just in case. His father rang the doorbell and a huge monster appeared above them, asking, "Have these people really decided to die?" Father and son realized that this was the Demon King's warning to enemies who were about to invade his territory. Dali told his son that he could sense it. The young man was surprised. What was he talking about? The iron-blooded warrior said that he sensed the Demon King just as the Demon King sensed him. Dali added that he had tortured and destroyed countless members of the Demon King's family. This ghost was a direct warning issued by the Demon King. The ghost said that these people were arrogant and behaved insolently. Bao Bao stated that the master was busy and that they would have to come back another time. In this case, the ghost was acting as a door lock. The ghost said he wouldn't say anything anyway, so there was no need to stare at him so intently. Father and son looked at Bao Bao, who was busy with his own affairs at that moment. After a while, the cat repeated that the master was asleep. Bao Bao suggested that the guests sit down and wait if they wished. The guests sat down and waited for permission to enter once the Demon King woke up. The sun was setting, and it was getting dark. The father and son continued to wait. Dali said that his smartphone battery had died. Roland told his father to take this seriously. What might the Demon King think if he saw them passing the time staring at their smartphones? After a while, the gate opened, and Jia appeared in the doorway. The young man apologized to Roland, saying he had accidentally fallen into a deep sleep. Roland smiled and said they had just arrived. Dali smiled and added that they hadn't waited long at all. Jia looked at the man and asked who he was. Roland replied that he was his father. He holds an important position in the Celestial Council. Jia was surprised. Why had Roland brought his father to see him? Dolly said that he had become a fan of the young man after watching that broadcast. He found out that the young man was acquainted with Roland, so he came to visit. Xiaoye explained that everyone had simply misunderstood him. In reality, he wasn't a celebrity at all and wasn't a wealthy man. He was a commoner who didn't know how to fight. Dolly said that Mr. Xiaoye is much more handsome in person than in the video. The protagonist replied that his father was being too polite. Dolly offered to give the young man a massage. Xiaoye was surprised. Why would he need that? Dolly knelt down and said that his shoe-shining skills were also top-notch. Roland was ready to disappear out of embarrassment. Xiaoye thought, are these high-level NPCs really chasing after celebrities like this now? He explained once more that he was just an ordinary person, so their relationship should be more normal. Dolly said he understood everything. Dolly asked the homeowner to accept a small gift from them. Xiaoye was surprised. The protagonist opened the box and saw an S-class robotic vacuum cleaner. The vacuum was equipped with the latest artificial intelligence, an automatic cleaning mode, and a turbo boost. Dolly said that this was a vacuum cleaner imbued with power. This vacuum cleaner would come in handy since the house was very large. Meanwhile, in the children's play area, the household pets, the demonesses, were playing. The vacuum cleaner began flying through the air and latching onto the demonesses, sucking their hair inside. Xiaoye smiled and said that this was very interesting. Dolly was pleased with himself. The fact that he had brought a joyful smile to the Demon King's face spoke to his abilities. Dolly looked at his son and thought that he should learn from him. The man believed that gift-giving should be tailored to the other person's personality, hobbies, and lifestyle. A fully automatic vacuum cleaner could not only help with house cleaning, but also play with the figurines and create a visually pleasing effect. This would not only meet the Demon King's daily needs, but also allow him to think of his guests every time he saw the vacuum cleaner working hard. Roland thought that he had indeed learned a thing or two from his father. Dolly asked his son, maybe Roland thinks he's a dog. The young man replied, isn't that the case? Dolly surmised that his son and the Demon King had gotten confused and overlooked his true wisdom. This artifact appeared harmless to humans and animals. It is actually equipped with the latest divine artificial intelligence system. The vacuum cleaner can accurately calculate the course of action that is most pleasing to others. Prolonged use could paralyze the Demon King's mind, forcing him to play with the device and lose his will. If this continues, humans will be able to win without a fight. At that moment, the protagonist decided to operate the vacuum cleaner manually. Xiaoye took the vacuum cleaner in his hands. A bright flash occurred and Dolly was extremely surprised. The vacuum cleaner transformed into a dangerous weapon equipped with artificial intelligence. Xiaoye asked Mr. Li, why did the vacuum cleaner transform? The iron-blooded warrior thought this was truly strange. How could a vacuum cleaner be turned into a weapon just by touching it? Moreover, it is equipped with the latest divine artificial intelligence, possessing computing power far surpassing that of humans. It can instantly analyze and obtain comprehensive information about the owner, as well as calculate the optimal model that the owner will like. Mr. Dolly had a revelation regarding the divine artificial intelligence. After analyzing all the information about the Demon King, the artificial intelligence immediately decided to surrender and wasn't even ashamed of it. Xiaoye was surprised. Why did Mr. Li kneel again? The warrior replied that he felt weakness in his legs and couldn't control them. Xiaoye suggested he sit down and rest. The host expressed his gratitude for such a heavy and impressive gift. The young man held out the weapon, apologized, and said he couldn't accept it. Dolly was surprised. Even after seeing such an artificial intelligence, the Demon King still refused to accept the gift. Perhaps he preferred living creatures. Dolly asked, Mr. Xiaoye, do you still prefer small pets? And if you have an elf, what do you think of gnomes and werewolves? Xiaoye replied that he had everything he could possibly ask for. The young man added that he needed to give these guests a gift. Otherwise, if he accepted their gift, he would feel awkward asking for something in return. Dolly asked what the young man wanted to ask of him. Xiaoye explained. On his way home, he heard that several children had gone missing outside the safe zone. The woman then told the protagonist that he was now a respected person. He lived in a magnificent house and was friends with high-level NPCs. The old man said that if the young man had the opportunity, could he help find a solution? Even a few words of advice from Mr. Roland would be helpful. If Roland wanted to get involved, he would definitely be able to find the children. Roland immediately made a phone call and got to the bottom of the situation. The priest noted that while it was normal for mutants to attack humans, if they had wiped out all the guards before they could call for reinforcements, their combat strength must be significantly higher. This caught the Demon King's attention. Could this incident harbor a devastating threat? Shaya asked Roland if he could save these children. The master of the house said he was very worried about the children. His eyes were filled with sincerity, kindness, and concern for the world. Roland thought something was off here. Had the Demon King really lost his mind? How could the majestic Demon King call for the rescue of children? If the war dragged on, the children would become the main force in the fight against the demons. Children are hope. In the future, he himself would fight against them, which meant he wanted battles. The Demon King pretended to be harmless to humans and animals, but in reality, he had an evil and cunning plan. The report stated that the mutants did not kill the children on the spot. Instead, the school bus was towed away. Roland said that this action must have had some purpose. That means the children are most likely alive. Shaya said with tears in his eyes that this was truly wonderful. Roland thought it was a pretentious game. He still had to pretend he believed all of this. The priest thought that if they managed to keep the Demon King under control, all this humiliation wouldn't matter. Roland said that this was truly a blessing from God. The protagonist remarked that he felt the same way. Roland said there was no need to worry. He would definitely save the children. Jaya remarked that Brother Roland was simply magnificent. Roland promised he would definitely complete this mission. Jaya stayed behind to wait for good news. Dolly thought his son's acting was exceptionally good. The priest ordered the NPCs on the front lines to follow his commands. All mutants above level 50 within a 100-kilometer radius must be blocked and their movements tracked for 3 hours. A group of mutants exhibiting signs of collective behavior must be selected. Assign the task to the players. Carnivorous mutants should be prioritized. Gather all evidence regarding the missing children. This will provide news and a clue. Roland said that the Demon King should expect good news from him. Dully thought that his son was highly motivated to complete the Demon King's mission. The Demon King chose to cooperate with Roland, rejecting the S-class artificial intelligence. Roland surpassed his father in his efforts to stabilize the Demon King. This reassured the iron-blooded warrior. He decided that he could now return to the front lines with peace of mind. Only by stabilizing this pedantic top leadership could Roland be given time to grow. Dali said that from now on, the divine-powered artificial intelligence would accompany his son. At that moment, the divine power of the artificial intelligence connected to the network of the Celestial City. Network monitoring of all people in the city was launched. The vacuum cleaner noted if any anomaly arose, it would be reported to the Demon King. Dali wondered, was this the real reason the Demon King had refused to accept the artificial intelligence? Shaya told the elders that Roland had already intervened, so there was no need to worry. He would definitely save the children. If he couldn't do it, no one in the world could handle the task. However, that was out of the question. The people said they already knew this. The Sky City had just issued a multitude of bounty missions, calling on everyone to hunt down mutants and search for the children's whereabouts. The rewards were very generous. Shaya remarked that this was great news. Now they could relax. People added that they didn't fully understand what this meant, but successful completion would also boost their reputation in the Sky City. In the future, all interaction costs would be reduced by 5%. Shaya realized that in the future, shopping at stores, transaction fees, and training for production skills might become cheaper. People said that hunting mutants was dangerous. These quests were released after Xiaoye asked Roland's brother for help. It would be a bit awkward if it became known that he was involved in this as well. The young man decided it would be best to forget about it. The protagonist stood in the middle of the city with a sign stating that he was willing to pay for help in completing the mission. A stranger approached the young man and asked, "Isn't this Xiaoye, the minor internet celebrity?" The guy said he'd seen Xiaoye on a live stream and thought he was a respected person. "How did he end up in a situation where no one is willing to help him now?" he asked. Xiaoye replied, "It's a long story. Nearby, some thugs were blackmailing a young man. He gave them all his rewards and begged them to let him go, promising to bring the same amount the next day. The thugs said that if the guy didn't want his photos to end up on the World Channel, he had to do as he was told. The bully noted that these new tasks were a goldmine. Their leader had gathered a lot of low-level players. Thanks to this, they could enjoy success and make a tidy sum." The girl added that collecting so many nude photos of low-level players was truly an achievement. The man told the protagonist that it turned out all of this was just a coincidence, so he wasn't a big celebrity after all. The girl thought that her commander had found yet another low-level player. "This guy is just a model worker." The young man tossed the hero a few coins and said he'd decided to help him, seeing how pitiful he was. Xiaoye received 3 silver coins. Xiaoye asked the man, "His rating must be pretty high, right?" The young man said that Xiaoye didn't understand anything at all. The girl added that making it into the top 5,000 was simply phenomenal. The captain had previously won the college esports championship. Xia Ye admitted that he really didn't have much experience. He had only been on a team once. He hoped these players would take him along on their mission. He had waited a long time to meet a team with real skills, one willing to take him along. The young man thought, are 3 silver coins really not enough for this guy? Or is he hoping they'll betray their own team and let him join? Xia said he was willing to pay. The other person smirked. The system reported that Xia was requesting a transaction to transfer 2 gold coins. The young man was surprised, since he himself had saved up only 2 gold coins in all that time. Why did this newbie have as much money as he did, even though he was ranked among the top 5,000 in the world? Xia added that full payment, 5 gold coins, would be made after the mission was completed. Xia remarked that, given their level and ranking, this was actually quite expensive. Was this option acceptable to them? The young man thought that this Xia was being condescending toward him. Some outcast dares to brag in front of him after just one live stream. This guy hadn't planned on taking any action against Xia, but now he'd changed his mind. He needed to lure him out of the safe zone, teach him a lesson, then take nude photos of him, turn him into a subordinate, take all his possessions. Then he wouldn't act like that. The young man said that since they were former classmates, there was no need to talk about money right now. Wasn't it natural for them to help each other? The girl told her colleague not to run, or else the mutants would eat him, and she wouldn't be able to save him in time. This was a place where all players could hunt monsters. Xia asked them not to scare him by talking about such things, since he was counting on their protection. The bully said he didn't care at all about Xia's final payment. Our hero, gathering the necessary information, kept up the pace. Much had already been accomplished. Xia asked, how much more do I need to do to earn the reputation reward? After completing the quest, the protagonist should receive the title Friend of the Celestial City. The hooligans said that if all the tasks were completed, they could return to the city. Xia said it was already dark, and the tasks he'd taken on were indeed too difficult. The girl noted that in the past, they always had to dig deep and search extensively. The tasks were very difficult. How did it happen that everything changed so suddenly this time? After a while, the protagonist asked if the players were sure they wanted to go this way. He thought that this guy had figured everything out. He said there were a lot of monsters around, so they needed to be careful. Suddenly, a level 56 mutant wolf did indeed appear. Soon, other mutants joined in. Xia shouted for everyone to run. The mutants pounced on our hero. The players turned around and actually started running away. The protagonist thought, could they really betray him and run away themselves? The young man came to his senses and realized he was in captivity. It turned out he was still alive. Xia heard crying and looked back. The young man saw children in the same cell. The protagonist thought, could these be the very children who went missing? The missing players and defenders were also in the neighboring cells. The thugs who had been with our hero were also unable to escape. The young man noted that not only the children, but all the missing people were still alive, just as Roland had said. But what do the mutants want to do with them? The children were crying. They were scared. It stank terribly in there, and they wanted to go home. Shaniye heated up a fried chicken and offered it to the children. One of the girls said that her mom had told her, there's too much protein in chickens like that. Xia showed the children his sword. The girl noticed that the sword didn't glow, and that wasn't cool at all. The protagonist showed them a small figurine of an elf princess. The girl asked if by any chance this young man was an otaku. Xia was upset. He didn't know how to comfort the children. The girl asked him, what is this? The protagonist replied that it was a crafting skill he'd acquired during his previous quest, a potion of primary purification. Once used, it could purify low-level negative states. The girl asked if it could be used to purify negative emotions like fear, anxiety, and unhappiness. She noted that the vial glowed beautifully. Xia Ye expressed hope that this was indeed the case. The protagonist told the children that there was nothing to be afraid of now. The girl pointed out that this guy had just looked like he was really scared. Xia added that someone would definitely come to save them. A mutant wolf overheard this conversation. Xia explained that by then, all these monsters would be destroyed, so there was definitely nothing to be afraid of. The children said that gave them hope. One boy said that these monsters were extremely strong. Who's going to come and save them? He asked. The protagonist asked if the children had ever heard of humanity's hope. Roland was racing along his set route on his bike. He had been informed that the school bus carrying the missing children had been found. The mutants had overrun the entire southern region, sparing neither players nor NPCs. When the children were captured, they were also brought there. Roland demanded that the exact coordinates of the missing children's location be sent immediately. The priest suggested that this matter wasn't so simple. Someone's voice asked the protagonist, "Was it you who said that the hope of humanity would come to save them?" On the other side of the bars appeared Fenrir, an S-rank mutated species. Fenrir said that this was indeed good news because he was the one he was waiting for. Fenrir's lair, monster guards stand watch. The guards heard a rustle, raised their weapons, and asked who was coming. The silhouette of an approaching person became visible on the deserted street. The guards said that this was Fenrir's lair, and entry without permission was prohibited. Roland was unyielding and determined. He didn't even slow his pace. The mutant guards flew into a rage and shouted for the man to stop immediately. Roland, without slowing down, attacked and destroyed these guards. After that, the young man continued on his way. Fenrir heard a suspicious noise and asked, "What's going on? Could an earthquake have started?" The mutant ran up to the master and reported that Roland was coming. Fenrir said that after a long wait, he had finally arrived. The monster declared that as soon as he met this man, he would be able to defeat him. Immediately, a devastating explosion rang out. The mutant wolf was attacked and sent flying to the side. A hole appeared in the wall. Fenrir even crouched down from the loud noise. Roland demanded that the monster hand over all the children immediately. Fenrir said that Roland was worthy of the title Hope of Humanity, and that his drive and courage were simply astonishing. Roland remarked that conversation was out of place here and asked where the captives were. The monster replied that there was no need to worry. They were all safe. The savior saw Shaye and thought, had he really made a mistake? Why was the Demon King here too? Shaye said he had been waiting for Roland's brother, and he had indeed come. Roland was surprised. Had the Demon King really been waiting for him? Had he come here to spy? Did he not trust him? The Demon King wanted to witness his battle, to see if he would even show up. The savior of humanity said that in that case, he would try even harder so that the Demon King could see everything for himself. The children were frightened of Roland and screamed that they were very scared. "Don't hand us over to this man," they said. Fenrir was surprised. Which one of them was actually the villain? Roland attacked the monster and dealt a piercing wound to its chest with his blade. The hooligans noted that this man had a powerful sword aura. "This is truly the hope of humanity, Roland." Fenrir became even more frightened and said that he had captured these people with no intention of harming them. All of this was done to draw the attention of high-ranking officials to the existing problem. Shai was surprised. Could it be that the monster's true goal wasn't to destroy Roland? The priest asked, "What was the point then?" Fenrir told Roland to look at his level, 101. The monster noted that he had awakened a super strong growth ability by eating a single sentient being. He could obtain the gluttony level. Fenrir added that he had risen to this level in just 2 days. Although he had accumulated another 15 levels, they were unnecessary. Barring other possessors of divine artifacts, he was now invincible. Fenrir said that being invincible, he wants to form an alliance with humans. What does Roland have to say about this? The monster's goal is not to be an enemy of humanity. He is seeking opportunities for coexistence so that more mutants can survive in this world. Fenrir revealed his abilities to the man solely to gain the upper hand in negotiations. Upon learning of his power, even the hope of humanity would inevitably be shaken. Fenrir noticed that Roland wasn't surprised but looked at the young man. Why did he do that? The monster thought that Roland was still angry about what he had done to the people. This hostility had to be resolved. Fenrir said he was even willing to apologize. He had only captured them to create conditions for negotiations. If anything, he had even saved them. Roland was surprised. What did that mean? The monster explained that when he met them, they were under attack by demons. Fenrir added that it was he who had destroyed all the demons and saved these people. The warriors watching this exchange thought that this wolf was courting his own doom. Fenrir decided that Roland was stunned by this admission, which meant he understood everything. Fenrir added that his subordinates had found the young man. He had been wandering through a dangerous zone with his companions. To prevent an attack by the demons, they had been captured and locked in a cage. Fenrir didn't understand why Roland was looking at him with that expression on his face. The monster offered to cooperate with the hope of humanity. After all, they had a common enemy, the Demon King. Roland drew his sword and said he couldn't let the monster continue speaking. Shaya told the priest that the monster was speaking quite convincingly. Roland lowered his blade and told Fenrir to continue. Fenrir knew this would interest Roland, so he devised the perfect plan for cooperation. Mutants are gradually evolving to a high level of intelligence. All the demons are now in disarray. This is an excellent opportunity for their final destruction. He would help Roland destroy the demons, and Roland would help him become the leader of the monsters. Fenrir added that from now on, he would rule over all monsters, feeding only on demons and not encroaching on human lands. Roland looked at the protagonist in surprise. Shaya said that sounded pretty good. Roland concluded that the Demon King had arrived here first to prevent him from joining forces with the mutants. He had forced the monster to fully reveal his plan simply to test his reaction. In other words, the Demon King already knew about the mutants' evolution and plans. Everything that was happening was within his expectations. Roland thought that the Demon King was manipulating everyone, including him. What a powerful prophecy. What a deep plan. What a terrible desire to control everything. Fenrir considered this a win-win solution, even if it was only a short-term collaboration. Roland had no reason to refuse the offer at this moment. However, the hope of humanity unexpectedly said he was refusing. Roland couldn't agree to the deal because he knew the Demon King was watching them right now. Fenrir was surprised and said that if the man had any demands, he should voice them. Roland said nothing. He simply attacked the mutant. Fenrir wanted to discuss everything, but was forced to flee to avoid being hit by the attack. Roland shouted that, in the name of the Demon King, he would destroy the mutant. Roland understood that the mutant was at level 101 and still evolving, but even so, he wouldn't be able to defeat the hope of humanity. Shaya was surprised. Had Roland really just shouted in the name of the Demon King? Why? Fenrir thought, was awakened wisdom not enough? Why couldn't he fully grasp the logic of human behavior? The mutant said that humans owed him nothing. However, he would still free all the captives and help destroy the demons targeting the Earth. In exchange, he wanted a chance to survive. Would Roland agree to this? Roland realized the second reason the Demon King had come personally to watch over him was that the king was worried. He was concerned that the hope of humanity might let this type of mutant go. Roland told Fenrir that he didn't agree. The mutant was surprised again. Fenrir offered various other terms for the deal, but Roland wouldn't agree to any of them. Fenrir didn't understand. Why wasn't anything working out? Fenrir said he was trying to find a way out for the mutants, but the man wouldn't accept a single one of his proposals. The mutant remarked that in that case, he didn't need to be kind. Fenrir would devour 50 layers of gluttony and rise 30 levels. Archbishop Hyphis reminded him that the Lord had said, mutants are creatures with low intelligence. Moshe admitted that the Demon King was stronger than expected. Under the influence of his power, the mutants had grown stronger. Hyphis was surprised. Why hadn't the Lord mentioned this earlier? Moshe asked, couldn't he have figured it out himself? He shouldn't rely on him for everything. It was time to think for himself. Hyphis apologized and admitted that they were entirely to blame. Moshe added that he regretted it. The opportunity to form an alliance had turned into a major crisis. Fenrir said he could defeat this man. Roland shouted that the mutant was activating a ranged attack. He could wipe everyone out, so they had to be careful. Roland shouted for everyone to use their defensive skills. The players used the skills Ice Wall, Shield of Truth, and Concealment. The children also used defensive skills and strengthened their auras. Jahi was surprised. Was he really the only one there who couldn't do anything? Roland activated the S-rank Divine Shield. The hope of humanity thought the mutants' attack was too powerful. The difference in their levels was quite significant. A little more, and the shield could be destroyed. Roland noted that his opponent had no way to use artifacts, and his power was limited only by his level. Was that all there was to it? The priest refused to cooperate with the mutant. Didn't the Demon King want to help him? Meanwhile, Xia was trying to hide from the looming threat. The protagonist turned his head from side to side. He didn't understand what was happening or why he felt no pain. Roland concluded that the Demon King was a poor actor. He was deliberately pretending to be stupid and avoiding his gaze. The priest continued to fend off the high-level mutant's attack in proud solitude. Roland had sacrificed everything for the Demon King, yet the latter refused to help him now. The girl threw a vial of potion at the mutant and said she would help her older brother now. Roland was surprised. What was that? The vial hit the mutant in the head and shattered. The potion spread across his skin. Xia watched in horror as Fenrir attacked Roland. Everyone present, including the protagonist, held their breath as they watched the outcome. Suddenly, a huge glowing sphere appeared in the mutant's mouth. Fenrir didn't understand what was happening. Hope of Humanity used the skill Divine Shield. Fenrir thought that he had broken exactly the same shield before. But what had changed now? Roland explained, this situation had arisen because Fenrir was now at a different level. The mutant was surprised. Why had all his gluttony levels disappeared? Fenrir, a B-class mutant, had been exposed to a purification potion, and the gluttony status had been dispelled. His original 76th level had been restored. The mutant replied that even his body shape and condition had returned to their original state. It was all because of the potion the girl had thrown. The purification potion dispels magical effects. Fenrir believed this was impossible. A C-rank potion cannot remove his rare S-rank properties. Roland was surprised. What kind of potion is this? Xia Ye hadn't expected this potion to be so useful. The protagonist said he had plenty more of these potions. Roland and Fenrir looked at the man in surprise. The priest realized that the Demon King had prepared everything in advance, waited until their feud reached its peak, and only then intervened. They were merely pawns in his hands. Roland asked, "Why is Fenrir so angry?" The mutant declared that he was now in a desperate situation. The priest declared that those were the monster's last words and attacked him again. Fenrir realized he couldn't win this fight. He had to do something else. The monster retreated. As he walked away, he said he no longer wanted anything to do with Roland. Shaya turned to Roland and said that he knew the hope of humanity would save them. The protagonist declared that he had finally mustered the courage to step forward, hoping to receive some kind of reward for the mission. However, he hadn't expected to encounter this. Roland thought that as soon as the matter was over, the Demon King had reverted to his false facade, as if nothing had just happened. Roland shouted that Mr. Xia was right. He could be sure that the mutants wouldn't harm anyone now. Our hero declared that Roland was incredibly cool. Jivitz asked if Xia was tired of having fun and if they could go back to the city now. Our hero asked, "Is the problem really already solved?" Roland was surprised. What was Mr. Xia talking about? The protagonist reminded him that this mutant had escaped. Roland noted that Fenrir's stats no longer posed a threat. Xia pointed out that for low-level players, this mutant was still very dangerous. Although he originally only attacked demons and didn't harm humans, Roland still refused to form an alliance with him. The priest said he understood everything. In that case, he was leaving. Roland got on his bike. The priest told the warriors that he had already destroyed all the mutants causing trouble in the vicinity. Now it was necessary to send the children home, to a safe zone. The Demon King must be taken home and ensured that he is not inconvenienced in any way. The warriors put the children on the bus. The group leaders asked why Mr. Xia didn't take another vehicle. A separate limousine had been provided for the Demon King. Xia said he would gladly accept the offer and settled into the comfortable car. Some thugs approached our hero. The girl asked if his name was Xia. She apologized for taking him on the mission, but failing to protect him. The girl added that she didn't know Xia was acquainted with Roland. The leader of the thugs returned the 2 gold coins and said that they were friends, so he didn't want to talk about money. If the opportunity arose next time, they could form a team together. The limousine driver asked, "Are these young men friends of Mr. Xia? Would they like to get in the car?" Xia said that he had hired these people to accompany him on a mission, so calling them friends wasn't quite right. Besides, when they were in danger, he felt like he'd been shoved hard. The NPC warrior said he understood everything. The hooligans were tied up, and they were offered a ride in the police car. The NPC assistant repeated the young men's confession. They admitted they had made a mistake. But wasn't this extortion? The hooligans were put behind bars. The hooligans committed a crime. They shoved the good man, Yaya. For this, they were sentenced to 3 years in prison. The NPC assistant said the crime could be reclassified as extortion. The morning news reported that the Heavenly City Guards had accidentally uncovered a brutal extortion incident in which low-level players were unlawfully harmed and protection fees were also collected. News also came from the front lines that the missing children had been found. The suspect was a mutant wolf named Fenrir. He is currently moving along Damon Street. The hope of humanity, Mr. Roland, is pursuing the mutant. The children were rescued thanks to the help of Mr. Xia, an ordinary enthusiastic citizen. Xia gave an interview and explained that it was all just a coincidence. The news anchor reminded viewers that Mr. Xia had been directly involved in the auction for the elf in the safe zone before the scandal. Legends circulate about the young man, claiming he is a god-tier boss. What is his true identity? The anchor continued asking questions. Why doesn't Mr. M appear in the rankings? Is Heavenly City deliberately hiding his true identity? And does he have any connection to Roland? The demonesses listened intently to this news report. Babylon and Belial were surprised by the Demon King's incredible exploits. Belial said that Fenrir hadn't gone to Demon Street for nothing. The mutant was flustered at an incredible speed. He believed he couldn't lose. Fenrir still couldn't understand why things had turned out this way. With his high stats and ability to devise a nearly perfect plan of cooperation, he hadn't even been given the chance to become an ally to humanity. However, that no longer mattered. Fenrir decided to survive and grow stronger. In the future, Roland would be under his command. The mutant could already smell the fortress the demons had built after arriving on Earth. With the great demon absent, the base was empty. He had planned to keep it as a food reserve, but now it would come in handy. Fenrir was approaching the demon children. To become stronger, he had decided to sacrifice them. They were to become his food. The 85th level demon guardian reported that some 76th level mutant had dared to break into demon territory. Fenrir attacked the guardian demon and told her to get out of his way. The monster opened its mouth and screamed that the time of gluttony had come. The children were terrified. The guardian demon said that this wasn't the end. As long as she was alive, the mutant wouldn't be able to harm these children. Fenrir proved persistent. The guardian demon was attacked again and deactivated. Suddenly, there was an explosion, and a hole appeared in the wall. Through it, the female demons and the cat entered the room. The monster asked, "Who are these others?" Beliar and Babylon politely introduced themselves. Fenrir was surprised. Could it be that these great demons hadn't perished? But surely his investigation couldn't be wrong. The mutant wolf, possessing a superb sense of smell, detected the scent of a stranger. Fenrir said that this demoness smelled like that guy. Such a unique and intertwined scent could only be obtained while sleeping together. Babylon looked at Belial and said that was impossible. After all, ever since they met the Demon King, they had been sleeping in cat beds. Belial silently lowered her gaze. Babylon saw the look on Belial's face and thought, could this really be true? The demon children screamed that Lady Belial had met the Demon King and had even spent time with him in bed. Babylon couldn't bear such a revelation. Baobao asked Baobao, could she smell the master? Could it be that the mutant had already met the master? Fenrir was surprised. Could this guy really be the one the cat calls master? Could this really be the Demon King? It turns out he had deliberately brought a potion capable of removing the gluttony skill. He pretended to have been caught. He did this in order to infiltrate the mutant's lair. Fenrir realized that he had indeed revealed all his plans to the Demon King. He said he wanted to destroy all the demons and feed on them. Now it's clear why Roland shouted, "In the name of the Demon King." Fenrir thought he was the only one who knew nothing. Baobao said that now that the mutant knew the truth, he could die in peace. Fenrir was devastated and admitted that he no longer wanted to live. The cat climbed onto the lying mutant. Fenrir thought that the power inherent in these creatures came from the master. That power was concentrated in him. Baobao said that the master hadn't destroyed the mutant right away. That meant there was a reason for it. Baobao stepped aside and said that in that case, he would give this mutant wolf a chance. He would take Fenrir to the master, and the master would have to answer for his actions. The demonesses thanked the esteemed Baobao for escorting them. The girls added that if the Demon King accused them of acting on their own, it would be on his conscience. The pets approached the hole in the wall and said it was time for them to return. Baobao's keen gaze noticed that someone was hiding behind a large rock in the city. It was Roland. He was extremely frightened, for he believed he had accidentally discovered the demon's camp. Roland had originally been the hope of humanity, but now he was constantly in despair. He had been ordered to pursue Fenrir, but had mistakenly ended up in the demon's lair. After Fenrir was discovered, he found himself alone, surrounded by 3 powerful demons. Beliar said that she could only destroy this man to silence him. Roland knew that his strength was unmatched among humans. In a one-on-one duel, none of these demons could stand against him. But at this moment, he had no chance of victory. Roland activated the skill, the Lee family's last trump card, and dropped to his knees. He declared that it was the Demon King himself who had asked him to come here. They believed Roland. He concluded that these servants weren't all that smart. None of them knew the Demon King's plan. Beliar was outraged. Did this man really mean to say he knew their master's plan better than they did? Babylon declared that this was very arrogant. Roland explained that at the beginning, the Demon King had given him a task, saying that he must rescue the children who had been taken captive. Xiaya had indeed said that the children were weak and helpless, and it was better for them to stay safe. Could Roland go and bring them back? The priest added that when he arrived, he found the Demon King already waiting at the scene. Later, the mutant fled here, but encountered these demons. Babylon was surprised. What was this man talking about? If the master had wanted to destroy the mutant, he would have done so instantly. Beliar noticed that this man was telling the truth. Possessing the ability to foresee the future and being close to the Demon King, she had known about this plan for a long time. Baobao realized that now that everyone knew, He no longer needed to pretend. This really was the master's plan. Babylon thought, could she really be the only one who knew nothing about this? Roland said that if these two confirmed it, then there were no mistakes. The Demon King had long been aware of the potential danger to his subjects. Although he appeared indifferent, in reality he had thought through every move and was hiding his true intentions behind the mutants. The Demon King used the rescue of the children as a cover to move the little demons to a safe zone. The little demons, watching the demonesses, saw that they were talking to a human. Could this be Roland himself? The little demons decided to destroy this Roland to ease the Demon King's burden. However, Roland himself came to the demon children. He said he was taking these children away. The children were surprised. Where did he want to take them? Roland said he would take them to the Demon King. The doorbell rang. Shaya realized that someone had come to visit him. The young man went to the gate and saw Roland and everyone else. Shaya was surprised. Had someone gotten a pet? Our hero saw the little children and thought, does he really have to take care of them too? The children asked the master to take them in. Roland was surprised. Had the Demon King asked him about this? Who had decided this? Shaya looked at the cat and asked what he was thinking. A little pet getting a pet? Does that even make sense? The protagonist surmised that this huge wolf must be very voracious. Baba the cat was denied permission to get a pet. The cat said he understood everything. In that case, there was only one option left: to destroy Fenrir. Xiaoyi explained that these three can't even feed themselves, yet they want to get a pet. Who's going to pay for its food? The protagonist thought for a moment and realized that even his food expenses are covered by the demonesses who produce horns. Shaya admitted that he actually loved his pets. If they really wanted to get a pet, they should take it to the backyard and tie it up. Babao thought that this was exactly what his master wanted. He was just pretending to scare him. As he made his way to the backyard, Fenrir silently apologized to the Demon King. Fenrir was put in a cage and decided that from now on, he would be an obedient dog for the Demon King. Roland told Mr. Xiaoye to take care of these children. Xiaoye was surprised. Why was Roland talking about this so naturally? Roland decided that this was exactly what the Demon King had planned. When he said this, the Demon King looked at him differently. Roland said that he had tracked down Fenrir and found a group of children who had also fallen victim, nearly perishing at his claws. The priest added, "The past and identities are completely unverifiable, so there won't be any problems. No one will doubt it." Xiaoye was surprised. Isn't an unclear past a problem? The protagonist didn't understand what that meant. Roland, as an official representative, asked him to contribute to community building. He has indeed helped many times. It would be awkward to refuse him. Our hero noted that settling in would be a bit difficult. However, he had some basic supplies that he would distribute among everyone so they could stay warm. These were slow-moving goods. Shaya added that he would sponsor an orphanage. He had been given a plot of land, but he had never used it. The protagonist noted that he really couldn't give any more. Roland was surprised. The children asked, were they now the ones with no one to rely on? Shaya thought that it was all very sad indeed. Our hero declared if Roland really needed help, he had an idea. Why not create a guild and accept everyone? That way they would be closely connected, look out for one another, and help each other. If there is an organization, then the children are no longer helpless. If a fee must be paid, it should be a win-win situation. The conditions for creating a guild are extremely strict. Not only do you have to pay a high fee, but there are also requirements regarding combat power and the number of members. However, once a guild is established, the maximum interaction fees can be reduced by 15%. The protagonist also decided that he could use the guild to participate in more events and earn more money. Thus, it would be beneficial. The young man noticed that he already had a guild creation application form. Roland thought this was a feigned refusal, specifically to create a guild. But if that was the only reason, it didn't matter much. Roland Lee approved the application, and the guild was successfully established. Shaya accepted congratulations on the founding of the guild named Overworld. Does this name mean that people from all over the world can unite and rely on one another? The elven princess thought that the meaning of the name lay in the fact that the host wanted to create a completely new world where all races could live in harmony. It was indeed a grand plan. Roland believed that no one understood the Demon King's true intentions. The hope of humanity himself was horrified by what he had just done. A new guild, Overworld, had been established. Qin Haojin was surprised to learn that the Demon King had founded a guild. Shaya received information that Haojin had applied to join this guild, and Lu Ju, and Obara had also submitted their applications. All players received a message stating that they had been accepted into the Overworld Guild. Haojin became the guild's deputy leader and received the title Claws of the Demon King. The other players were surprised. Why had these four suddenly become hostile? The doorbell ghost felt a strange sensation. He also became the deputy leader and received the title Gatekeeper of the Demon King. A red dot suddenly appeared on the map. The NPC assistant said it was a dungeon. The Demon King's mansion in the safe zone had completely turned into a dungeon. The Archbishop was informed that the rate at which players were leveling up hadn't increased, yet the Demon King's power was growing rapidly. Pucci thought that humanity had never faced such a terrifying enemy before. The Archbishop clasped the cross on his chest and prayed to his god. Moshe received a request for protection. God said there was no need to worry. The outcome would be worse if he came in person. Roland didn't understand how this could have happened. He felt that he could no longer be the hope of humanity. The priest decided he must not give up. No matter how dark the path of life might be, there is hope ahead. Hope that will never fade. Babylon and Belial, watching Roland, said that no matter how hard he tried, it was useless. The Demon King had already prepared everything. The girls added that their victory was an inevitable future. The door to the room swung open. The elven princess appeared in the doorway. She told the sisters it was time for dinner. The demonesses received their cookies. The princess had a pastry for dinner. They believed that as long as they were their master's favorites, that would be enough for them. Fenrir saw the Demon King and was surprised. Why was he here? Shaya asked, "Is this the king of the mutant wolves who wanted to cooperate with Roland and destroy all the demons?" Fenrir was frightened. Shaya added that he seemed to have been right.